this. Once we're vaccinated, and everybody gon' be safe. Everybody gon' be safe. One kind, yeah. One people. We are roll up to roll up, yeah. Cause no man's alone, do what's right, alright. Cause I love you, brother, my sister. And we're in this together, my sister, my brother. I don't wanna lose you. I love you too much. I think it's better for us, yeah, yeah. It's better for us, yeah. I don't wanna lose you. I love you too much, yeah, yeah. It's better for us. Tell your mommy to roll up, to roll out.
Bless up, Dejo here, and I'm doing my part in the fight against COVID-19 by following all safety protocols and, most importantly, rolling up my sleeve for the vaccine. So I'm encouraging you to do the same, because that's our best shot of protecting ourselves, our family, and our friends. So don't wait, vaccinate. Let's roll up to roll out.
Everything is blessed between the two islands, so we're giving thanks. We don't have to check the weather channel for the status. Take a look aside, I know right, the sun is always there on time.
Pleasant afternoon to everyone. Allow me to adopt the protocol that has been so ably established by the chairman of the PLP. However, allow me to recognize the head table. Firstly, the leader of the People's Labour Party and our Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris. The Deputy Leader of the People's Labour Party, our very own Minister of Health, the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet. And also Mr. Thompson, the chairman of the People's Labour Party, and Ms. Williams, the National Secretary. I bring apologies on behalf of our party chairman, the Honorable John L. Powell, who, due to a prior engagement plan, could not be here today. Nevertheless, our party, the People's Action Movement, stand firm in its commitment with the People's Labour Party. Family! Family! You know, as a member of the People's Action Movement, we are used to members and friends of the People's Action Movement. But since the inclusion of our People's Labour Party and Concerned Citizen Movement, we say, family! And I want you to understand how important it is a term family is. It means that we are brothers and sisters in unity. We are brothers and sisters in unity. And sometimes when people see family doing well, they commend. And sometimes when people see family doing well, they seek to divide. But I am here to communicate today that the People's Action Movement stands strongly with the People's Labour Party. I wish also to say that we, the People's Action Movement, commend the contribution of the people here today and the people of the People's Labour Party. Indeed, we commend your leader, the Honorable Timothy Harris, and your deputy leader, the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, and members of the executive who continue to play an instrumental role in the development of this party, and by extension, the development of St. Kitts and Nevis. We thank all those who have supported us in the movement of unity. And today, as I end, I want to say thank you. Hold strong and continue to build from strength to strength. I remember when the People's Labour Party started out, seemed like a small party, but by now, in 2021, you see the numbers growing and growing. Commend yourselves. There is more to be done. And as I leave this podium, I leave as I began. Family! Family! 25 more years or more. Family!
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All protocol observed. However, allow me to recognize our Prime Minister, founder and leader of the People's Labour Party, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, Deputy Leader, Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, Ministers of Government, Executive and members of the People's Labour Party. My PLP family, a pleasant good afternoon. Come, we can do better than that. I need my colleagues in Nevis to hear you. My PLP family, a pleasant good afternoon. That's more like it. It is with a great sense of excitement that I stand here before you to celebrate another milestone, your 4th annual National Convention, and to bring you special greetings and solidarity on behalf of my party, your sister party, the Big Blue Machine, the indomitable Concerned Citizens Movement. The Concerned Citizens Movement, under the leadership of Premier Mark A.G. Bradley, rallies with you as you continue to excel in your endeavors to put people first. PLP, we are united with you. We have a common goal. We have a common purpose. We have a shared vision and a shared destiny. We do believe, as you do, that the people of this country should and will always come first. There was a time in your history when one would have looked at the size of your party and cast your judgment on how great of a party you would one day become. Some doubted your ability to carry this great party to victory. Now, a few years later, look at the People's Labour Party. You have 2 formidable elected candidates sitting in National Assembly. Though your party is young in years, you are advanced in experience and accomplishments. And I must say that you have had lots of accomplishments. When we speak of progress, we think of PLP. Do you agree? Yes, let's make some noise. When we speak of great vision, we think of PLP. When we speak of women empowerment, we think of PLP. That's facts. Look at Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet. And when we think of the advancement of our people, we think of PLP. The growth that we have seen of PLP over the last few years must be appreciated, recognized, and commended. In the last federal election, your party accomplished a mission that many thought was impossible. There were those who thought that the great Calypsonian, who proclaimed himself as an unstoppable force, could not be defeated. All the pundits, analysts, and Monday morning quarterbacks thought that beating him was mission impossible. but in came your mighty champion, a strong and powerful woman who, like the historic Joan of Arc, gave the Calypsonian a crushing defeat. My PLP people, that's the strength of Aquila. That's woman's power.
I give it up for the woman.
Your party, the mighty People's Labour Party, has also given our nation a phenomenal leader. A leader who is astute, fearless, and decisive. During our darkest hour with Corona, when all hope seemed lost, it was your leader, our Prime Minister, who captained the ship of state and sailed it to calm and safer waters. When the Team Unity government came to power and met an ailing and shattered economy, it was your leader, our Prime Minister, who rescued us from the clutches of the IMF. PLP, give your leader and deputy leader a well-deserved rousing round of applause. Yes, PLP, leadership matters. Leadership counts. Together in unity, we continue to grow from strength to strength. Together in unity, we fight for the betterment of our people and our country. Let's continue to support the unity construct as our nation is safer, stronger, and better with Team Unity. In conclusion, my PLP family, I urge you to continue to inspire and bring hope to the people of our nation. Continue to empower and bring out the best in our women. Continue to demonstrate the essence of true leadership. But most of all, yes, most of all, continue to be people-centric. Care for our people. Love our people. And make our people front and center in everything that you do. Thank you, PLP. God bless. One love.
Everything is blessed between the two islands, so we giving thanks. We don't have to check the weather channel for the status. Take a look aside, I know right, the sun is always there on time. 1983 upon this fertile soil, independence arrive. So we can be where we want to be.
What a wonderful convention it has been so far. Last night we had the opening session of our convention, and it was a spectacular feeling of energy, of commitment, of excitement, of confidence in the stronger and safer future. And I want to start out by commending all those who are now part of the People's Labour Party executive. Could you stand and could we give them all a special round of applause? Executive members. Thank you very much. This is the team that we will work with as a party, and all others who are interested in building the stronger and safer future which we promise and which you, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, deserve. I want, of course, to acknowledge the deputy leader of the party, the Honorable Aquila Byron Nisbet. Give her a special hand. I want, of course, to acknowledge Miss Dr. Bernicia Nisbet, the Deputy Leader of the National Assembly and our PLP Senator. I want to acknowledge Ambassador Kevin Williams. Give him a special hand. Ambassador Vance Amory, the other excellencies of the diplomatic and consular corps, and of course all of you, the members, the well-wishers and supporters of the greatest party, the People's Labour Party. I thank you for coming out for a second day for our party's convention. And I thank you for your discipline during this season of COVID, for complying with the protocols. And we have done all we reasonably could to ensure that we keep everything in accordance with COVID-19 protocols. So let's put our hands together to those who have organized our convention so very well, and to thank you for complying with the rules. I want equally to recognize our fraternal partners, the People's Action Movement, and to thank my friend Azad Gums for bringing fraternal greetings. I want to recognize the contribution of the Concerned Citizens Movement and thank the lovely lady Miss Jones for bringing them on behalf of the CCM. Equally, I must commend a friend of our country who has been here doing tremendous good work in the area of national security. I want to commend Dr. Sharon Gopal McNichols, our keynote speaker, and thank her for journeying all the way from Trinidad and Tobago to be here in St. Kitts and to avail herself of the opportunity of being here to be part of our convention. And I want to thank, of course, all those who brought greetings to us via the technological media. Give them all a round of applause for participating. Thank you, one and all. We have heard a lot about our party, where we stand in moments of difficulty and where we stand in good times. You have heard a lot and you know a lot about our formation in 2013 and how from that difficult part we came forward and energized a nation, energized a country, energized a people, and brought victory to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis under a coalition banner. We remain committed. We remain committed to unity, because working together, always the people of St. Kitts and Nevis will achieve more. So thank you to our partners. Yes, the PLP has an interesting story. We have defied several odds. When persons said that we couldn't, we showed them that we could. When they said that we could not win, we said that we will win. When they said there was no history of anyone leaving any party, forming a new party, coming on the political scene and being able to win, we say, all right, the past is already gone, but we are a party for the future and we will create our own history. And today, we have seen the results. No sooner had we been formed, we were able, as it were, to show the country that a different way is possible, that the unity way was possible, and that we could set aside narrow political differences over years well honed to look to a better future for all the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to do so. Yes, we are the youngest political party in St. Kitts and Nevis, but we are also the fastest growing party. That is because our values are those of the working people. Our values lead us to put a premium on creating more jobs for our young people, building homes for our people, and keeping our streets safe. And what a wonderful job St. Kitts and Nevis at the safest it has ever been in a very long time. For that, we want to thank the entire team at National Security. But in particular, I want you to give a round of applause to Commissioner Hilroy Brandy, to the Lieutenant Colonel of the Defense Force, Comrie, to Terence Strames, to Mercelyn Hughes, all of them in the front line of our national security apparatus. But most importantly, I want you to give yourselves a round of applause, because you understand that we need peace in the land if we are ever to achieve prosperity. So our party will continue its outreach. Our party will continue the fight. Our party will continue in the struggle for a better quality of life for all of the people everywhere. Because that is what we are, a truly national party. We are a party that genuinely puts people first. And we will be there for you in good times and bad times. That is the commitment that we make to you. Yes, the PLP is the party of choice for a large number of persons everywhere, and we are grateful for the opportunity to serve. Serving together as part of a team. Serving with a new ethos of empowering and uniting people to build the St. Kitts and Nevis that all of us love and all of us want to see getting stronger and safer each and every day. So I say thank you for coming out to this particular convention, and I want to thank you for observing the protocols. I don't want to speak too much about them since the Minister of Health spoke, but the important point to remember that the most significant challenge which face every country in the world, be they large or small, is the COVID-19 pandemic. How do we deal with it? And one thing is certain, that the new indicator of success is now how fast you can move in the vaccination rollout. I therefore want to commend the 8,000 plus of our residents who have gone forward and have been vaccinated. And I am proud to lead a party that understands that you have to lead by example, and every member of our executive has been vaccinated. Give them all a round of applause. What we ask of you, we are prepared to do. We say that getting yourself vaccinated is helpful to the opening up of our country more fully. It's helpful for job creation. It's helpful to get our hotels back open again. It is helpful for the cruise tourism to come again. It is helpful for the expansion of new areas in the tourism plan. It is necessary that each and every one of us become vaccinated as soon as possible. 2 Sundays, I think it was, that we were over at the Peninsula at the Marina, welcoming Mr. Martinez, the principal behind the MSR Productions. And it was interesting, the reason he gave why he ended up in St. Kitts and Nevis to make movies. He said he was pointed to Barbados, and he went there. He was pointed to the Dominican Republic, and he went there. All of those perhaps have more experiences in movie making than St. Kitts and Nevis does. He said what was a decisive factor that brought him to St. Kitts was that we had done such a wonderful job in managing the COVID-19 pandemic.
We never gonna rest till everybody bless. Make sure that everybody bless.
And in the end, instead of doing one movie, he will do 6 movies here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Indeed, he had come to Salt Lodge and the peninsula to begin the production of another movie in St. Kitts and Nevis. And he will be spending time on both islands where they will find the best sites for this new area of engagement. This means jobs for young people. Some of them are here, involved in music, involved in arts, involved in choreography, involved in videography. It is a new area that can be stimulated, and it is coming to St. Kitts and Nevis as a bonus because we have done the right thing in protecting our country of St. Kitts and Nevis. So we have to continue in that part. As a result of our superb performance, imagine the things we have been able to do in St. Kitts and Nevis. Big, powerful country can't get it happen. Right here in St. Kitts and Nevis, since last year, we put every primary school student, every early childhood student back in their classroom, face-to-face delivery. In the United States, millions of children still not back in school. Millions. And I want to commend the experience, leadership of the permanent secretary and educator, Mr. William Hodge. Could you stand? Let us give him a special hand.
We never gonna rest till everybody bless. Make sure say everybody bless. Yeah, yeah, everybody.
We are doing what big countries have found it difficult to do. We have opened up our churches. In the United States now they are in court as pastors are trying to find a way back into their churches. But thank God in our blessed country we have learned well. And persons have gone back to worship in physical presence. And all we ask is compliance with the protocols. If these are outstanding stories, there is even more. With our limited health sector and health capacity, we have managed our country's effort to defeat COVID-19 so excellently that to date, not one man, woman, or baby has died as a result of COVID-19. We say thank you to God for favoring us, man. Goodness of God running after the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
We gotta say thank you, thank you.
I want to commend all our healthcare workers. The charge, of course, is being led by our CMO, Dr. Hazel Laws, by our medical chief of staff, Cameron Wilkerson, all the other doctors and nurses who have been given yeoman service. They deserve your applause and your continued support. I want to commend 8 nurses who recognize the challenge of the moment and they're determined to give up their retirement to come back out to serve our people to ensure the successful rollout of our vaccination program. I have seen at least 2 of them at work at the Newtown Health Center. Nurse Sylvia Isaac from Molyneux, give her a special round of applause. And Nurse Cooper, let's give her a special round of applause. We thank all of them and we owe them a debt of gratitude. But it's not just the nurses and it is not just the doctors. It is also the security forces who have been managing some of those quarantine sites who have been doing the follow-up action to ensure that persons are complying with the regulations. Let's give our security officers a round of applause. Our front line have done an excellent job, and they deserve to be recognized and to know that their work is well appreciated by this government. I want to commend the immigration officers, for they at the very front of the line. Give them a special hand of applause. Our custom officers, they have been doing a wonderful job, and St. Kitts and Nevis is proud of the contribution, the stellar service of these officers, and we hope that their example become the example for all of us. We will give the very best. We will be the very best that we can be. That is what we must do if we want to build a stronger and safer future for every boy and girl, every man and every woman in St. Kitts and Nevis. So yes, I want us all to very quickly reach the 70% mark that we have set. We are 1/4 of the way, and we just started 4 weeks ago, so we are going good, but we can go so much faster if in every house you ensure your mother gone and your grandmother gone, your brother gone and your cousin gone. If in every house in Atlas, in Molyneux, across the breadth of St. Kitts and Nevis, we are getting our family members, our neighbors, our friends, our sports colleagues to go, we will get there soon enough.
One hand in the sky, the other on your chest. We never gonna rest till everybody bless. Make sure say everybody bless. Yeah, yeah.
We are urging you, do not hesitate. Get yourself vaccinated as soon as possible. You know, in some ways, I wonder and I ask myself, what are some people really waiting for? Some big people and some small people. It is as if they are not understanding the urgency of now in relation to vaccination. And I wonder if they're waiting until there is no vaccines in St. Kitts to say that they are ready. Well, I can say now that there is a global shortage of vaccines. There is a global shortage of vaccines around the world. It is becoming more difficult for those who should produce them to produce them. And when they are produced, the wealthier countries who have the purchasing power are demanding more of it, because they are saying never again must their country go through the turmoil, the confusion that COVID-19 has brought to them. You see how weak America looked in the face of COVID-19? The most powerful country was the most disorganized in its response. Then you understand why for President Biden, never again must it happen to a superpower. And while in England, they are giving you according to age. You have to wait. They start with the elderly and they go down the checklist. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have made it free of cost and available to everyone.
One hand in the sky, the other on your chest. We never gonna rest till everybody bless. Make sure say everybody.
We have made it available to everyone. Please seize the opportunity. Please do not take the availability of it for granted. Please do not wait until you may fall ill and you need to go overseas for one reason or another to ask for vaccines. because it may well become a requirement in the not too distant future for you to get on a plane to go anywhere. Right now they are asking you to do the negative test. Soon they will move to a better indicator, and they will ask that those who are coming must show that they are vaccinated. This is the most serious challenge the world has faced in nearly a century, and it has brutalized large countries and small countries alike. The ILO has said to us that around the world, nigh 255 million persons have lost their work, have lost income as a consequence of COVID-19. And the only way then we are going to get back to where we were with growth, with record numbers of women and men at work, is when we reach the best where we can go with respect to the vaccination rollout. So if you intend to encourage someone to be vaccinated, let me hear you make a loud noise. I want to thank you for that commitment, and I take your word seriously. When in the last election, I listened to the voices of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis all over. I went everywhere to assist, to support, to ensure the victory is there for the Team Unity family. And I listened to the young men and women in Challengers, as I listened to them in Old Road, as I listened to them in Sadlers, as I listened to them in St. Paul's, as I listened to them in Harris's, as I listened to them in Nevis, as we listen and we learn, over time, we understand what the people of St. Kitts and Nevis really, genuinely require. And I have learned to trust people. My good friend Licky Bird, because his ears are to the ground. Hardest from Sandy Point, because he's a genuine commentator. And we could go on and on. Bucky got it right there. Let's give him a special hand. It is the ordinary people in the alleyways that we have to listen to get a real grasp of the soul of the nation. And over my last 20 plus years in active politics, I want to say thank you to all the people who have been my advisors. I don't pay them. But they give sound advice. And if money could have paid for the quality of advice, they would have been multimillionaire.
One love, one federation. God bless my nations, and you know it that.
So I want to say thank you several times. Well, Vance and me were there when we did some of the canvassing in Newtown, in West Bastia, in number 4. So I want to thank him. He's one of the most gifted politicians in terms of people interaction. Give Ambassador Vance Amy a special hand of welcome. And as we went from door to door, talking to the people, hearing and understanding better their circumstances, we knew that the people were committed, and they still are, to the Team Unity family. The people wanted to work. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis do not want to go back to a PAM labor scenario. They want us to work together where all parties come together to advance the growth and the development of St. Kitts and Nevis. That is why in the 2015 elections, we delivered a surprise. What could not happen for 20 years before Team Unity suddenly happened because the people got the solution that they required to advance their country, their dreams, their aspirations. That was unity. Some people thought it was a mistake. Douglas was hoping that it really was a mistake. And so he don't want to take last lick. So he come again in 2020. But it was the real thing. Licks again. Champion, champion. So I want to say thank you. It is our first convention since the elections of June 5th. And I want from the bottom of my heart, as a leader of Team Unity, as the Prime Minister of this country, as the leader of the People's Labour Party, to say thank you to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis everywhere that you are, for your contribution. You, and we had the ability and the intuitiveness to find the people where they're at. You see, when they were making a lot of noise, and leadership not easy, I could tell you. I could tell you I've lived it, and I understand it every day better. But importantly, the leader must have a clear vision of where the country and people require to go. The leader has to be steadfast and mature enough to understand that even with that broad vision, there may be different paths that take you there, different roads, but we will end up the same place. And therefore you give space to allow for that. You could get to Atlas Pasture coming from Bastia, and you could get to here coming from Tabernacle. If we're ending up at the same destination, sharing the same philosophy, we need not argue about some of the paths once they are legitimate paths that take us to the destination. And when we were saying close the border, there were some people who said, open it up. Open up the border. They're not thinking long term. They're not thinking long term. And a leader must look beyond now to the medium and long term. And we are as safe as we are. We have done as well, because my cabinet looked beyond the short term of opening up the border. And when we say the borders are closed, I meant that the borders were closed for your protection. Some people wanted the borders open just to bring in plane loads and then leave all the coronavirus here with me. You understand? And every night I had to remind them. I had to remember it like a recitation. Prime Minister, you have to tell them the borders are closed. And I had to add for health reasons, because I was hoping that they will understand. Some of them came to the argument, well, what about livelihood? And a good, I understand it. Without life, there can be no livelihood. Life first strategy. First job. My job was to preserve the lives of our people so that they could have a chance thereafter to engage in a livelihood of their choice. That is why we took those hard decisions. Some people don't have the burden of carrying the debts of people on their mind, but a leader of a nation must be so careful because he carries the dreams, he carries the sorrows, he carries the pains, and he carries the joys of his people on his shoulders and on his mind. And so, because I was so clear about what the imperative of the moment was, I really didn't lose too much sleep. I listened to people, because you should always listen. You pick sense out of nonsense, because you can learn out of every conversation. Sometimes you do not learn what to do, but you learn what not to do because of what they tell you. And so I want to thank all the ordinary people who often, your words not measured, but you understand the solutions to the problem of this country more than some people who get big money. So I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis for returning with a sure vote of confidence in the leadership of Dr. Harris and his cabinet colleagues when you went to vote on the 5th of June and you gave us a resounding mandate. Thank you for your support. I want, of course, to thank the people of number 6. We did not win number 6, but we will win it next time around. I want to thank the young people and the not so young people that came out and made a significant difference. I want to thank Ambassador Williams for carrying the banner of the People's Labour Party in number 6. We must now work smarter together. That is a powerful word. We will work together to deliver the victory. And it blesses my heart, because when I went to introduce Kevin Williams then as a candidate on the PLP's banner to the people of St. Paul's, there were a number of persons there. I saw them last night, and I said, I told you, I shall remember you. I shall remember you. And we will do the best we can so that this day of your support will always be memorable. Let's give the people of number 6 and Ambassador Williams and all the others who work so hard a round of applause. I saw them and I remember them. I remember Shahid. Shahid came to Marriott. I never see a man come to Marriott with a Hannah paper like this, and he come up to the podium and he presented Nicky Williams. Shahid is a roots man, working hard. And he's working harder now for the PLP than he has worked before. And I want to thank him. At that meeting in Marriott, there were Evans, Daniel. I was proud to see Evans still there with us. They have not abandoned the PLP. To abandon PLP is folly, because PLP will win, and PLP has energy, PLP has experience, PLP has commitment, PLP has stamina, and PLP will always find a winner. I say thank you. I say thank you to Vernon Rollins. When the vote of thanks was being given at Salah's house, it was Vernon who came and said something. So I want to say thank you. You say, I remember their names. Because remembering their names and their contribution is an important part of political stability and political success. So I say thank you, brother and sister. I will fight with you again, and I know I can, with your help, deliver number 6 into the fold of the People's Labour Party. So I say thank you. Thank you for your confidence. Thank you for your votes. I could tell you, since the last general elections, the largest number of persons who have registered and paid up have come from number 6. They in this year to stay, man. They understand the love and consideration of the People's Labour Party. It's difficult now, but in time we shall deliver. We shall deliver. A little patience and a lot of patience sometimes are required to get it right. You have my word, and we shall work to deliver. So I want to big up all those people, the Canes, Kelvin, and all of you know who you are. Miss Eddie from Sadlers, Tracy, all of you. So proud that you still have confidence in your party. And we shall continue to have confidence in you. Our perhaps biggest moment coming out of the last election was how we defied the odds in number 3. Yes, 3 of the people in number 3. Thank you. Thank you for making it happen. Sometimes you have to really ignore the noise. For in the last campaign, there was a lot of noise in number 3. But sometimes those who are making the most noise, they're not in the alley. They're not on the block. They don't know what to go on in their neighbor's house because they really don't care. We, the people, went door to door in number 3. Understood them, heard from them, assuaged where we can their concern, made the necessary commitment, offer them a winning personality, their voice in Aquila, Byron, Nisbet, and I want to say thank you to the people of Westminster for delivering a historic victory to the People's Labour Party. They say it couldn't be done, but we were about the future. They were looking at the past, and in the past, no one could have triumphed against the labor machinery in number 3. But the past is already gone. That is why we were looking for the future. And we in the People's Labour Party, we say we are the party with genuine labor values, and we went and we sold that message to the people of number 3. And now we have in the parliament a quick learner, an intelligent and competent Minister of Health to lead the fight against the COVID pandemic. I want to thank her and commend her for her support, for her membership of the party, but for the stellar work that she has been doing. And you heard from her tonight a long list of deliverables, and she just started. Canvas can do, Aquila can do. And she is doing for the people of number 3. I want equally, while we are talking about new ministers, to commend the Honorable John L. Powell and his victory in Central Bastia, and to welcome him to the government. And equally to commend the Honorable Alexis Jeffers at his victory in Nevis, and to welcome him as our Minister of Agriculture et al. To the people of number 7, my beloved people, you have never let me down. So from the bottom of my heart, I just say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to the people of number 7. You delivered the most fantastic victory that I've had in the last 20 plus years. You gave me the space to neglect, quote unquote, because the people of number 7, they live in my heart. So even when they don't see me, I am only maybe a WhatsApp away. I am dreaming you. I am feeling you because you live within my heart and on my mind. So I say thank you for allowing me to take time to go all over the country. I want to thank the people of number 7 too, because when we started the house-to-house activity in number 3, it was the women from number 7 in particular who rallied the cause and were among the earliest to arrive to give support to Akila Byron Nisbet. So I say thank you and record our appreciation. Thank you for your support, and thank you to the people of number 3 for their hard work. I saw them on election day as I went from booth to booth visiting. I saw one of our founding members, Vinelma Hanley. Lord, she looks so young on election day. It's as if she had predicted the victory. And I want to thank you, Vinelma, for your continuing support. Could you put your hands together for their work? Even as I look back and reflect, I want to thank Victor. Victor is special and always will be for multiplicity of reasons. Victor is a man of his own mind. Victor does say things that I like and things that I don't like, because he's a man of his own mind. And he came home and he has made a living and a life, and he could stand on his own feet. He's an independent man. But one of the things why I will always remember him is that Victor always had confidence in me and in the People's Labour Party ability to triumph. And when we had nowhere to go, it was to Victor's house that we went with our small executive meeting. And when we had outgrown that, we then moved to Tabernacle, where is now my constituency office. We must have a memory of gratitude. Let's big it up for Victor All. And Victor, we want to thank you for all that you have done for us as a party and for us as a people. I want also to thank someone else, and I'm wrapping up now in the interest of time. I want to thank Tony Ross, who is now the legal advisor to the People's Labour Party. Tony, stand. Tony is a former candidate for the People's Action Movement in West Bastia. Perhaps he was one of the best performing candidates in West Bastia. When he heard of the formation of the People's Labour Party, when he interrogated us and he heard of our commitment to team unity, he said to Sam and I, this is what my country needs. He had been longing for the politicians in St. Kitts and Nevis to understand that unless we came together for national good, we will all lose. He was prepared to put his money where his mouth was. And he and Dr. Sebastian were the first 2 donors to the People's Labour Party. I want to say thank you. But it speaks well about us. When he, Tony Cusey, an expensive lawyer in Canada and an expensive lawyer in St. Kitts, I glad me don't get myself in a trouble, but then I'm going to ask him to do it as a friend. When he could have been there and now come here within us as a People's Labour Party, I want to say thanks to him for his confidence in our leadership, in our party, in our commitment to a major national agenda of unifying. And that is why in our theme, we speak the message of unity, of empowering. You see what empowering does? It gives you your freedom. That is why I could speak about Victor Earl, because nobody could say, well, Tim, I pay Victor Earl. Victor got more money than me. I'm a poor man from Tabernacle. So it's not about that. It is that he has seen more. They can't say that about Tony, a multimillionaire, the lawyer, the first black lawyer to have won a major class action suit in Canada. That's Tony Ross. And he's here with us. And I say thank you to him. We are going places. We have the vision. We have the energy. And we are committed to working together. Our tent is open. Wherever you are, we welcome you. If you are not a member of any political party, PLP welcomes you. And if you are a member of any party and you want to be part of us, we welcome you because we are working together for a national agenda. Thank you very much. My well-wishers, the members of the PLP, we have come a short journey and we have divided and defied the odds. We will create our own history. We will not let the history of the past blind us from attempting to do what we know must be done to take our beloved country forward. That is why in times of challenge, you look beyond you. In times of challenge, there must be a bigger purpose. Because if it is just about me as leader, then I can easily leave it alone. I gave up the opportunity to be a professor at the University of the West Indies. The university had paid over $500,000 TNT to take me to do my PhD. And when I got the call that the people needed me, I said, Lord, this is a tough decision. Tough decision to make. And I came home really. I had intended then to say, I really can't do it. But out of respect for the people of number 7, I said, I don't want no hearsay in between. Because hearsay don't lead to trouble. You know it. So I came to tell the people of number 7, thanks, but no thanks. I had chosen another career. And when I got to the airport, I saw Vera Samuel, I see Doreen, I saw Willie Phillip, I see hundreds of people from the constituency. And my conscience and my heart would not allow me to bring a sad story then. So I said, I will tell you all my decision. You see, I was being honest, fairly honest. I didn't say yes, yes, and now they come to you. Yes, yes, in the motorcade. I said, I will tell you my decision tomorrow. Sometimes it's good to take time for sober reflection. Sometimes some of us want to hear yes as soon as we ask a question. Especially if you send it by WhatsApp. I say, you read me WhatsApp or no? You wonder why you read it? Because sometimes having read it, you need to really understand it. Sometimes you need to research it so that you could answer in an honest way. And I went home and I recognized that it was my duty as a citizen to help at that moment in time to deliver the seat. There were 2 other contenders, Clifford Thomas and Vernon Harris, for the seat. I was told that the people of number 7 had said that I was the only one who could deliver. I reflected on some of them like Miss Andrews, who had come to know, to work with my father, a man who hailed all the way from Cotton Ground but was deeply rooted in St. Kitts. Sir, 33 of us, what a man. Give my father a round of applause. 33 children. One of the lessons of that, apart from the hardship, really, was that he told us there was no distinction. I had a sister, and whenever I visited my father and something heated come up, she would say, "Are you only half?" I went and told my father. My father was a man with colorful language. He said, "No bother with a stupid ass, you could have half a child." Can't have half a child. It's all or none. It's your child or not your child. And he brought us together. Perhaps that is why the passion for unity, the passion for working together still lives in me. And I want to thank my father for all that he did for me in a positive way. I want to say that I could not turn my back, having traveled all the way from Canada to St. Kitts and the people of this constituency. It had been too far a journey. And I say now, we have traveled as far as a party and as a team, Unity Family. And I will go the full length for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I say thanks be to God for giving me the opportunity to serve my country at a time of challenge, a time like this. And to be able to do it so successfully. And I must say thank you to all of you for your support, for your love, for your advice. Thank you, Talcum. Thank you, Stebu. Thank you to all the people of Tabernacle and Bellevue and Mansion and Christchurch and Phillips and Molyneux and Lodge and Borio and Lodge Village and Lodge Project and Atlas Village, my constituency. But most of all, I know and I'm aware, without the love of all the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, I would not be serving as a Prime Minister. To God I give the glory and my gratitude to you, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and to my colleagues who have allowed this moment to go so successfully to date, in spite of very difficult moments, in spite of very difficult moments when the country needed us. We have been able to go beyond personal convenience and personal ambition to put St. Kitts and Nevis first and foremost. I would only end with one last thing. In the first 5 years of the Team Unity Cabinet, the man who has been the most stabilizing in the Team Unity Cabinet is Ambassador Vance Emery, and I want to record publicly my gratitude to him. He had come from a position of leadership of a party. He had come from the position of leadership of the NIA. He understands the moments of challenge and opportunity, and he gave me wise counsel. I say I owe him a debt of gratitude. Whatever kiss you all had to give me, you could give Van some as a goodwill gesture. So thank you, Vance. I want also to record my appreciation really to the entire cabinet, but also to the Deputy Prime Minister, who has been a good support and a good friend. Thank you very much to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. We shall continue to press on, doing good for the people. Thank you.
I will take the vaccine because building defenses against COVID-19 is a team effort, and we are all a key part of that defense.
I definitely will be taking the vaccine when it's my turn.
I will be taking the vaccine as it is an important tool in the fight against the pandemic.
It is important for me to vaccinate to ensure that if I do become infected with the disease, it can prevent hospitalization. In addition, it also helps with herd immunity.
I will take the vaccine to protect myself
my loved ones, my clients, my co-workers, my community.
St. Kitts and Nevis, why do we need to vaccinate? Kenisha? So we can jab COVID-19 away.
You know, it's me, Mr. HE, and I'm here with one message: roll up to roll out. We all know how difficult things have been during this COVID-19 pandemic. While we continue to wash our hands, wear our face mask, and practice social distancing, how about we take it one step further and get vaccinated? Call the nearest health center to find out if you are eligible to be vaccinated. Or you can contact the Ministry of Health at any one of these numbers down below. Don't be discouraged by the negativity. We all have a role to play in protecting this federation. So, St. Kitts and Nevis, let's roll up to roll out.
St. Kitts and Nevis, let's roll up to roll out. It's our best shot.
Thank you for life. We thank you for strength. Dear Lord, we thank you for all of the stakeholders who are gathered here in this room. Dear Lord, we thank you that even though we have had a challenging time, oh God, that you have been able to sustain us. Dear Lord, even as we come together to discuss today, oh God, we ask that everything will be done decently and in order. We ask for your guidance and your vision and your continued protection on the families represented here and our nation. All these things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming, stakeholders. It's a year and 2 weeks since we've had a stakeholder meeting, and in terms of all of the persons in the tourism industry. And it was March 12th, 2020 that we had that meeting, and we had indicated that March 13th, I believe it was, what would be the last ship, the Princess cruise ship that would have served us on the Saturday. Over the last year and 2 weeks, it's been extremely hard. We know for all of you stakeholders, because you depend on tourism. I know there are times you have felt that the St. Kitts Tourism Authority and the Ministry of Tourism, we are not serving you, our stakeholders. And we can understand that given what has happened in the global pandemic over the last year. It has not been easy for the destination on a whole in terms of positioning us in the Caribbean market and also in the worldwide market. We've gone through ups and downs, and we saw many destinations open before us, and we know that that was not an easy situation for the destination. We also know that as we transitioned as of October 31st, led by the task force, we saw some properties open before others. We saw situations evolve in the region as it related to cruise, bubbles. We saw many things happen, and where we sit now, as it speaks to basically 4 months, is we've seen some destinations go through spikes. We've seen our source markets, 2 of them basically closed off from us, the UK and Canada, just because of the restrictions of persons having to travel, when they travel, what happens to them when they return. And we've also seen the airlift, the non-stop flights, be it BA from the UK and Canada, Air Canada from Canada basically not serving the destination from November last year because of what has happened. We've seen the United States market being our only market, as it is for stayover or as it is for air or for yachting. So it's been very, very difficult. It's not an easy time. We've seen where we've gone from 12 flights from Miami to St. Kitts weekly, basically just down to 3. And it is not without a lot of discussions and going back and forth with American Airlines. We had United come on board and we were very hopeful in December when they started, but we now see that they pulled out as of February 20th because there was just not the demand. We understand what the issues have been. However, it is a very up and down time, and where we sit now is where we are going. And we may not always have all of the answers all of the time, but we recognize that we're here to serve you through the Minister of Tourism, and it's a very, very, very fluid situation. So what we decide on Monday can change. For example, in Canada, there is an update that Air Canada will resume to Mexico and the Caribbean their service in May. That does not include St. Kitts, because St. Kitts service is always November to April. So even though they may resume service to Mexico and the Caribbean, we're not a destination that can carry the demand in the summertime. For the UK, we've had several pushbacks as when the flight started with BA in December in terms of rescheduling. We see the flight loaded for sometime May, the last Saturday in May. However, we saw last night the UK Minister of Health advised that they're not advising persons from the UK to travel right now to international destinations. So there's a lot of fluidity. We have to be keeping up with it. It's not easy. However, we have some direction, and where we go from here, we hope that it can assist you. From as early as January, we started to position the destination as both islands that are uncrowded and secluded, and we will continue to do this because this is just natural to St. Kitts and Nevis. We do position us of having no deaths and low number of cases, and yes, it is a situation that we're not trying to hold over the heads of other Caribbean destinations, but we do have to let people know that we're safe. And we have brand loyalty. We're seeing with all of the trends in the industry that the 3 brands that we have. Oh, I swear. I'm sorry. Okay. You didn't miss anything. This was the first slide. Okay, so we're good. Okay. Sorry about that. AJ? It was working before. Okay, phew. So brand loyalty is important, and we're seeing this trend that where the 3 brands that we have in St. Kitts and Nevis, because they have a high recognition, and because they are global brands, they do provide minimum requirements for health and safety, so they add value to the destination. Naturally, the destination encourages persons to be outside. Even the way our hotels are designed, it encourages persons to be outside. And we really have an opportunity here because we're seen as a safe destination to increase our brand awareness and our product placement, and that's what we've been doing. Yes, there are challenges, there is a reality, and those of you in the industry, you can just reel this off to me. You know that our travel restrictions are probably is the hardest in the Caribbean. It does not give us a competitive edge when we compare to other destinations. That's just a fact, and you all know it. We have travel restrictions in all our source markets. Even for the United States, for persons to return, they do have to quarantine. It's a 14-day quarantine. It may not be mandatory, but they do. Vacation in place. Many of the hoteliers and the taxi operators and tour operators, you already can say that it has not worked. It's been very difficult because we're a destination that over the last 5 years we've promoted being outside. What we have in terms of our authenticity and our uniqueness speaks to the destination, going out and visiting attractions and doing shore excursions. So it's been very, very difficult. We started vaccination in February. However, as of even yesterday when the Prime Minister had his monthly press conference, the CMO, Dr. Laws, indicated that whether or not where vaccination is in place for our stakeholders or non-vaccination, the travel requirements are going to remain the same until we get to herd immunity, which is the 70%. And the challenge is, we all know in this room, that without cruise, we really are non-existent. It's the reason why we have restaurants, we have beach bars, we have the diversity of vendors, taxi operators, tour operators, the attractions, the sites that we have. That is the reality. Without cruise, we just cannot do well. So I just quickly want to go through the industry trends because they speak to stay over and they speak to cruise. We have luxury and upscale brands, and this is data from the Star Report. The Star Report rates the tourism industry globally and in the Caribbean, and what they found out is that persons in the demographic, the target market that we speak to, where we sit, we are doing very well because we have the brands that speak to luxury and upscale. We already know that most of the persons that come to St. Kitts and Nevis stay for 5 to 7 days. Our sweet spot is not 3 to 4 nights. The average person coming here is 5 to 7 nights. No, we know this changes, but this is right now what the trends are showing as it speaks to Travelocity, Expedia, the Star Report, and also Travelzoo. So we have an opportunity here with our 5 to 7 nights. What can we do as it speaks to stay over for our hotels to be a little bit more innovative or creative? As I keep saying, looking forward, the #1 source market will remain the United States. And this is an interesting quote, and it needs to give us some direction and to feel positive. I know it's been very, very difficult. However, with additional fiscal relief coming, many persons know there's a stimulus that was launched in the United States and more progress with vaccination on the front. Sentiment should rise further as it speaks to Ryan Sweet, Moody's economist. As we approach herd immunity, pent-up demand will be released. So in the demographic that we speak to, this is very real. This is for all persons who are sampled for traveling. But what I'm saying is that those of you who are in the DMC market, the destination management companies, those of your hotels, those of you who are dealing with cruise as it speaks to agents, you're very much aware that you get questions. So there is pent-up demand. We know that the answer comes down to what the travel requirements are. However, there is pent-up demand, and we believe, the Ministry of Tourism and Tourism Authority, the answer to that is vaccination. We cannot move around it, we cannot ignore it, we cannot sidestep it. Vaccination is the key to everyone in this room continuing to earn an income and for the tourism industry to get back on board. This is from Expedia, and this is just some interesting information. Married couples, they're tired of staying home together. They have children, they need a break. City dwellers, because they're cooped up in one room or they're in the city, these will be the first to travel. It's just a fact. Think about it. We've been blessed that we don't have this situation. 46% from Expedia said they're more likely to travel when a COVID-19 vaccine is made widely available. This was done in January, when we know the vaccine rollout it just started, but there was a spike in COVID-19 in the United States. 56% of people who are married will travel. This is good for St. Kitts and Nevis. Why? Whether it is stay over or whether it is cruise, we are a destination that we get a lot of couples. That's just it. We get families, but traditionally we get a lot of couples. They're not coming necessarily just for their honeymoon or a wedding. They're coming for their vacation. This is what's interesting, and this is what's going to direct our marketing right now. It's very fluid, but this is what we're doing. All travelers are willing to cut back on personal expenses, whatever they are, so they can have their vacation. It doesn't matter where you sit. You're planning a vacation and you're thinking about, I just need to get away, so what is not necessary for me to do right now? It doesn't matter, because that pent-up demand is in the market. And it's interesting, dining out and getting takeout or alcohol or streaming services, because these are the key things that have been keeping people very settled during COVID. The West Coast, in terms of persons where they are willing to travel, is 52%. This backs up for St. Kitts, where many people don't know. We do get people from the West Coast. We do get people from LA. And in terms of our proposed marketing plan and an activity that we did early this year, it supports that. The Northeast, it's really interesting that the Northeast is not leading the West. But it's interesting because the Northeast, New York is our #1 target market for St. Kitts and Nevis. The South is 35% and Midwest. So we've never really been strong in the Midwest. So looking forward, everybody wants a beach vacation. And this is confirmed. We may think about it, but this is what Expedia is saying. And why am I speaking to Expedia? Because Expedia is the #1 online travel agent for St. Kitts. Whether or not we have Delta Vacations, whether or not they're American Airlines Vacations, whether it's Classic Vacations that does travel agents, whether it's Valerie Wilson, the #1 travel agent, whether it's online or it's a sit-down home mom and pop, or you go into a consortium, is Expedia. They drive the bookings for St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, many of us may not like to hear this because depending on where our hotel sits in the tier, but when we look on the bookings, this is where persons come from year after year after year for St. Kitts. And I'm not going to get into the landmark tour, just because we do know that in the United States, many persons are pushing domestic vacations. It's a reality, it's safer, because some persons still have concerns about international travel. But this is what's important for Expedia. 45% can't wait to take a cruise. 45% with all that has taken place. And Expedia is not the #1 wholesaler for cruise. Cruises individually are their #1 wholesalers. So it's very, very important for us to understand that. Looking forward, it doesn't matter where you sit, whether you're a silent generation, which are persons who are over 70, for persons who are baby boomers, like Minister. It doesn't matter where you sit. Where I sit, I'm a Gen X. There are many Gen Zs in here. But globally, it doesn't matter where we sit. There is hope, and you can see it peaking as we get into Q3. And so it's important for us to understand where we're positioning ourselves, and some of the things that we've been doing is to get us ready to this position at this point in time. So many persons, we've gone through the Travel Seal approved process. I hope everyone in this room has gone through the training, and you've got your training. To date, we have 3,273 persons in St. Kitts, and these are all of the categories. If you would like this, I can share this with you. And in Nevis, we have 1,714. The grand total is 4,987. Now, this is important. If 4,987 persons in the tourism industry that have been travel approved, gone through the training, have received the vaccine, that would be phenomenal. Because currently, whatever the number is of this week, for the total numbers of persons that have received the vaccine, and I think it's 6,000 and something, not even 10% of those persons are from the tourism industry. And that's not good. Because for us to transition to the state of continued reopening, for some of us to do our tours, for some of us to open our beach bars, it is dependent on vaccination. If you've listened to the news, COVID-19 is going to be around for another 2 years. We're living with it. Just as we've lived with flus, just as we've lived with chickenpox, just as we've lived with measles. And this is not the first time that a vaccination is going to be required by the travel industry. For those of you who have to fly to South America, it is mandatory when you check in to make sure that you have your yellow fever shot. The airlines will not allow you to check in. If you're going to Africa, you have to have your malaria vaccinations or the medication, or they will not allow you, even if you're going for a cruise, because the first point is the airline to get you. So this is not the first time the travel industry has dictated what is going to happen. It's not the first time. So I say to you, this is not new. Vaccines are not new. Also, the technology is not new. But the alternative is what? Us not working for another year? We can't handle go through another season not working. It's not possible. For those of you who don't know, the travel approved seal has been issued to those properties and the attractions and the highlights of St. Kitts Tour for those taxi operators who are travel approved. And the seal at the bottom, which is the white, and it says St. Kitts and Nevis, and it's for 2021. Only when you've been approved for vacation in place, international travel, do you get this seal. And the reason is, meaning that visitors are going to be international travelers which are high risk, whether they're vaccinated now or they're not vaccinated, because they're still high risk, and you have to meet the minimum requirement by Ministry of Health, St. Kitts Tourism Authority, and other requirements that have been established through the protocols. So where are we now? We've been a little passive in the market for about Q4 of 2020 because we opened October 31st. We were one of the last destinations to open. If my memory serves me right, I think only Tortola, BVI, was the last to open in December. So there wasn't a lot of noise about us, and we had to be very careful in reopening. I must admit, for the Tourism Authority, we did not have a marketing plan that was pumping a lot of information and promoting the destination, for the simple reason it was a test situation. We saw spikes going up and down in our source markets. We weren't sure, as I said before, what was happening. However, the vaccine has given us some direction in terms of where we're going and what we need to do. All of our target markets, and this is by research, these are persons who have shown intent to come to St. Kitts. We have primary markets that are with the red dots on the screen. The blue dots are our secondary markets. And these are where persons have either come into our funnel on our website so we can remarket to them. Also persons who have visited St. Kitts before from these destinations. Whether or not somebody is coming for air or for cruise, it is important that wherever these places are, we continue to sell St. Kitts and Nevis. Yes, we would love to cover the entire of the United States. However, we do not have that budgetary funding. So we have to do it by priority, which is our primary markets and our secondary markets. Some of you may have noticed that Minister and I have been doing a lot of PR. If you're on our stakeholder mailing list, we've been doing the circuit, and we've done about 181 articles to date. Most of them have just been interviews. We waited for us to be able to say 3 months after how St. Kitts and Nevis was doing. It was important that we could position the destination how we wanted to position it, which was safe, what the protocols are, and what is working. We've done 12 interviews completed, and we've had 338 million impressions. And this is between Travel Weekly, Travel Plus, Caribbean Journal. And it's important that when you look at the headings that these journalists have been interviewing us about, it's about St. Kitts positioned itself as a success. Now, yes, that doesn't mean anything because we're all healthy, and I understand that it's a critical situation economically. However, we believe this is a platform to build on for marketing and promotion for us, for persons to come here in Q2 and Q3. So these are just some of the articles, and if you don't have them, we can send them to you on our e-blast. One of the things we did in February, because we felt the perfect timing was now, with what was happening with the vaccine. On Valentine's Day, we launched a promotion called Retie the Knot in partnership with the Park Hyatt and with Dreamy Weddings. One of the things, it was just a simple thing, a photo contest. Persons submit the photos of their wedding day and to tell us in about 70 words why we should choose their picture. And you can see basically every state, 48 out of 50 states submitted. That's big for St. Kitts because we've never had this reach before. In total, we had 19,857 views and 8,000 unique views. The most important thing, views are great, but I want to be clear. The 8,000 unique views are what's important. It means that persons clicked through. We were able to get their email, their zip code, and their other information so we can retarget and market to them. We had 1,591 entries, and that is huge. I know for you persons are probably saying, oh, that's a small number because there are other destinations, they have tens of thousands. Yes, but this is St. Kitts and Nevis, and if we want to put this into perspective, in 2019, we are about 158,000 air arrivals. So when you hear of other countries in terms of stayover air arrivals being in the millions, St. Kitts and Nevis, we haven't even reached 300,000 yet in terms of stayover. So I need to put it into perspective for you in terms of how well we're doing, but what the destination has to offer. And it's important that we found persons who not only would like to take part in a group vow renewal that we're hoping to have in partnership with Park Hyatt and Dreamy Weddings, all being equal in November. It was postponed last year. But what is also important is that this is the demographic that we speak to. They're 47 or older, they're married, they travel regularly, they have a passport, they're highly discerning, and their average income was $150,000 US. That is very important because persons coming to St. Kitts spend, whether it is cruise or stay over. The voting period has ended, and these are our finalists. I'm not sure if you can see them, but we have 5 finalists. Oh, sure. We have 5 finalists, and we don't get to vote. They get their friends to vote. And by getting their friends to vote, we're getting more people into our funnel so that we can continue to market and build up marketing for the destination Q2, Q3, and Q4. So basically, as we position the destination, it doesn't matter for stay over or cruise. We are a safe destination. We're an island escape. And hopefully, launching April 1st to September 4th, we're going to have a 5-night, 4-day promotion for the destination, and it's a hotel deal. And we're promoting the destination for hotels to get some additional revenue. A major concern for Minister is that, and this is very early, if we do not promote the destination, we run the risk of some of the hotels closing for the summer. And if they close in summer for vacation in place, there goes the airlift for summer, and then how do we build up that traction for September, October, November into December? So we have to put something into the marketplace. Airlines do not fly to St. Kitts because they just love St. Kitts. They have to make money. So basically, this is an example of the offer in summary. 5 days, 4 nights. It's an automatic upgrade. You get a balcony room, breakfast. Based on the properties outlined, it's for 2 adults and children, and the booking window is April 1 to July 31st, and the travel window is April 1st to September 5th. That's the Labor Day weekend. And normally our booking window is a little shorter, but we've learned through trends in the marketplace, because of what's happening with COVID, we have to be fluid with the booking window, and the travel window, and the longer it is, the better. It used to be the shorter it is, the better. But the longer it is, it allows for flexibility because of the fluidity of the situation. So for cruise lines, because many of you, respectfully, you're in here because that's the reality of your business or why your business was developed. Yes, the Minister of Tourism and myself, we have been meeting with cruise lines. In fact, for the rest of the week, we do have meetings scheduled with the major cruise lines and some of the smaller ones, as it speaks to St. Kitts and positioning St. Kitts for Q4 2021 into 2022, which is the start of the winter season. It must be clear that every member of a ship, which is the cruise ship, and their passengers are required to be vaccinated. So it is mandatory. So I just want us to understand that. They're not allowing persons 18 or under for passengers to come on board because there is a higher risk. Crew, it's the policy of the cruise line. They are requiring 72 hours prior to travel the RT-PCR test from home port. Many persons are asking, why do you need to do a test if you're vaccinated? Please remember, the vaccination reduces the risk of spread, and it reduces the risk of many persons ending up in the hospital or severe community spread that puts a strain on our medical system. 10-day, 14-day cruises are basically not the norm anymore. Yes, the UK is opening up, and yes, Europe is opening up. However, for the summer, many of them are staying within that area. So we will see what happens. It's interesting that since the Biden administration came into power as of January 20th, the CDC has not provided a direction for passenger cruising from the US home ports. And I think this has been one of the most difficult situations for us because we are very dependent on those cruise lines that are registered and operate from Miami, Port Canaveral, Galveston, wherever in the United States. So it's been very, very, very difficult. However, the cruise lines in all of this have become very innovative and creative, and they're home porting alternatively from some ports in the Caribbean. And many of you would have seen this, for example, the Bahamas, Adventure of the Seas, Millennium's the Celebrity, which is home porting in St. Martin. Barbados is getting Vision of the Seas. That was Safe Harbor in here. They're going to be doing the ABC, St. Vincent and Tobago, tentatively. And yesterday, we saw Bermuda home porting. So they're looking at alternatives. You may ask, why can't St. Kitts home port? We do not have, at this point in time, the airlift to support the change in terms of the crew change, in terms of the passengers. It is something that we would have to carefully look at in terms of our structure and also our hotel capacity. Please remember, at this point in time, we only have about 697 rooms that are travel approved for vacation in place. So it means that we would have to open up all of our room stock, and we would have to look at the hotel room stock specifically, because it can't be villas, it can't be condos, it's specifically to our hotel room stock. So home porting, while it offers an opportunity, it would take some work for us to do that. Also, I think it is important for us to understand that we do have challenges. It has been said that, as early as yesterday, that vaccination and reaching 70% herd immunity is the time frame given, but there is no date. So we are also challenged by when cruise will start for the destination. We have submitted a document to the task force proposing a phased approach, but I will say this, it cannot work without everyone in the tourism industry who is going to interact with cruise not vaccinated. And I say that if we think of it as a struggle, achieving 70% to protect everyone. If we don't have the person serving the cruise lines protected, and then you go home and you interact with your family, you're not protected, your family is not protected, then we can have a situation where we have community spread. It's an all circle, it's an all people approach. We cannot leave out one person out of the tourism industry. So when you get vaccinated, it is your job for your family or for your business team members to also get vaccinated. Vaccination and health protocols are going to decide the itineraries, where cruise ships go. You see it for yourself with the announcements. They're going where protocols or vaccination policies speak to what happens. We are in discussions with the Ministry of Health and the task force, and I say this for all tours, it's going to be the same thing. Let us not think about the big picture. You have to offer some level of safety and comfort in your protocols and your health for your passengers. Why would I go to a destination after all that the world has been through and go and stay at a hotel that I have no security at minimum, that the person that is cleaning my room, that is serving me at food and beverage stations for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, a water sports operator, the lifeguard that could be saving my life because something happens to me, I may rent a scooter, the person has to come and rescue me because something has happened, a rent-a-car. Why would I go to a destination and choose those services and those persons from those entities not vaccinated, to put myself at risk because I am vaccinated? Because yes, I am vaccinated. So we have to think about this in the big picture. It's not about being selfish and taking away rights. It's a situation, and I hope I can say this confidently and properly, so bear with me. We have reopened, but everyone in this room is hurting because you're from the private sector. We've gone through a very rough period. Some of you may not even be open, and you're wondering if you can make it to be open. We have vaccination. We have done at the Tourism Authority, we've done the training, we've done the protocols. Those are the minimum, but the vaccine puts the layer on it to protect us. So I say, without the vaccine and without your business and without your team, without your staff, without your families vaccinated, it is only going to delay your businesses restarting. At this time, I'm going to hand over to Minister, and then we'll take questions and answers.
A very pleasant good morning to all. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, Carleen Henry Morton, CEO of the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, Raquel Brown, and our Product Development Manager, Melissa Marshall, invited guests, stakeholders, a very pleasant good morning. I think Raquel has said a mouthful this morning, and so I would be very brief, because I think the essential thing about this morning is to hear from you, the stakeholders, as to how you feel at this point in time and what we consider to be the way forward. I don't have to tell you that the COVID-19 has ravaged our economy. It has ravaged the global economy. I don't have to tell you that in this room we are all hurting. Some hurting more than others. In fact, the tourism industry has been clobbered, and we have to find a way to recover. I, however, believe that recovery depends on each and every one of us. It's an all-of-society approach. Because I believe if I were to do a poll in this very room this morning to all of you who are at the heart and the fulcrum of the challenges that we face, if I were to run a poll this morning in this room, I am certain, without even having the empirical data before me, that most of your staff, as of today, has not been vaccinated. I can bet on it that most of the taxi drivers and tour operators have not been vaccinated. And so therein lies part of the difficulty and the challenges moving forward. We need to get to our 70%. In fact, I picked up a young man this morning on my way to work. I picked him up in Old Road on my way to Bastia. And he was indicating to me the serious challenges that he was facing. He, of course, was one who is in the tourism industry. He is one who would not have had a proper income since March of 2020. And he was relaying the story to me, how difficult it was for him. That he had 2 young children, girls in fact, whom were living in Nevis and were having some function tomorrow. And that he did not even have $1 to contribute in a meaningful way to their function tomorrow. And I said to him, well, have you been vaccinated? And the answer was, as I expected, he has not been vaccinated. And I said to him, well, you are a part of the problem. Because here it is, you are saying that you're hurting so badly, which I wouldn't doubt, but yet you want to be in a job tomorrow, but yet you're not getting vaccinated to get us to the benchmark of 70%. So as in local parlance, we can say we can free up the place. Because that's what we need. We are a heavily dependent country on tourism. And if we did not know it prior to March of 2020, it has come to us very face on. And I am certain that every single person in this room is concerned about their business, about their livelihood, and about their families. And so my message this morning is just a plea to all of those in this room to try to get the message across to ensure that we get to that benchmark. And I too have to do my part, because I am the minister in charge of SCASPA, the St. Christopher ANC Ports Authority. And we had an information session some 2-3 weeks ago. We employ some 327 persons on the front line. 327. And out of those who were there at the session, only 21 took the vaccination. 21 out of 327. So we have a real problem to get the numbers. I looked at some statistics yesterday, and I just want to share with you where we stand in the vaccination process. And you would recognize from the countries I'm going to call that because they're heavily into tourism, they are ensuring that their people get out and get vaccinated. And so when I look at Cayman Islands, who is heading the list at 62.62 for every 100 persons. When I look at Bermuda, who is second in line at 48.95. When I look at Anguilla at 35.65, you recognize that the stakeholders, I suppose, in those islands are doing their bit to get their frontline persons and the entire country out. And so we have to do our own bit to get our own people out to get to that 70%. I know we have one of the strictest set of protocols at the moment. It worked for us in terms of keeping our numbers down and not having any deaths or any community spread. But I personally think we have to change a bit of gears now. And personally, before it was a serious health issue, but I think we're at the point that it's a serious economic issue now. And so we have to find a measure of balance to ensure that we don't die of COVID, but we probably die of starvation. And so we have to find a sweet balance. And so we want to hear from you this morning to get your views in terms of how we proceed from here. I must say, however, that we have been in constant contact with the major cruise lines in the industry, because we recognize that we have to keep the lines of communication open to make sure that when they open up, we are ready to perform and produce. And you know we have produced and performed before, because the numbers speak for themselves. But I dare say that we are in an entirely different environment, which calls for an entirely different approach. And so we want to hear from you, because you are on the front line. And we must be our brother's keeper. Because I shudder to, I wear a different hat sometimes as a businessman. And I know the challenge. I know the challenge. And I know that some of you are just keeping the doors open to possibly sometimes just keep persons employed. And the hard and the stark reality is that you're not making any money. In fact, you're losing money. In fact, I am certain that some of you in this room may even be on the verge of saying that if something doesn't happen in 2 months, I have to close the doors. That's the real hard reality. It's a reality, however, we don't want to get to. We don't want to get to that. And we recognize that this industry accounts for, when you look at the indirect and the direct account, stands for some 62.5% of GDP. It means that 6 out of every 10 persons in the country is touched by our tourism product. But I am very optimistic for the future and what it bodes and what it holds for us. Obviously, I won't go into details, but I can assure you that we will bounce back, and we will bounce back in a significant way. But to bounce back and bounce back in a significant way requires your input, requires your stewardship, requires your help. Because the industry is never going to be the same again. And it means that to excel in the industry, as it was before, but which will be even more pronounced now, is that we have to be the best we can be in the business. We have to be tops in customer service and produce a product which gives value for money, because we are going to be in an even more competitive environment and space. And so I want to thank you for understanding the difficulties and the challenges we are going through, but also to appreciate that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And if we individually and collectively put our hands together to the till, we will come up with a product and a series of events that we will even be surprised what we can achieve at the end of the day. I'm saying we are almost there. I'm hopeful that over the next couple of days and weeks and months, we can achieve our 70% benchmark so that we can get back to some state of normalcy. But I just would like to end by saying that the decision and how quickly we get back to where we want to be does not depend on me, does not depend on the persons at the head table, but it depends on all of us. Doing our little part, whatever little part we may play, in ensuring that those who have the anti-vaccine mentality are educated in such a manner and in such a way that it will behove them to proceed to the line to get the vax. And so I'm depending on each and every one of you in this room to do your part so that St. Kitts and Nevis can get to a place that we want to be, and that the economy again begins to drive the way that we know it can. So I want to thank you for coming out this morning, and I wait for your questions, and hopefully I can answer them. I just want to recognize the chair of the task force who arrived and who had another engagement, Mr. Abdias Samuel, who will also be here to support us in the answering of the questions. So I thank you very much this morning.
We thank the Honorable Minister for his remarks, And as we go into the question and answer segment of the meeting this morning, I would like to ask individuals who have a question if they can use the mics that are positioned on the two ends right here in the middle. If you can go to that mic, 2 persons at a time, we will take the question. Please state your name and the organization that you are representing, and then you may state your question. Because we have quite a few persons here this morning, we are going to ask that you keep your questions or comments very concise so that we can get in as many questions as possible. So if you have a question, we can now invite you to go to the mic and present that question.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Head table. First question, and quite simple, Mr. Minister. You mentioned about the individual who you gave a lift ride this morning, seeking $1. Easy answer. Did you give him that $1? Were you able to give him that $1?
Mr. Flames, and I'm a very giving person.
Sorry, but you didn't mention, so we can commend you, so I'm asking.
I certainly did.
100, you say, or 1?
I won't tell you the figure.
Okay, thanks. Okay. CEO, you mentioned about the top 10 starters, I suppose, in the US, yes? Florida, Texas, and so on and so on. What about Europe? Do we have a list of countries, areas in Europe that has potentially shown interest? And I know that the numbers are constantly turning over in Europe. But do we have any statistics on any of these countries that we might be receiving visitors from in the near future, or that when things get back on track? Those are my 2 for now, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brandy. Ms. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Brandy. Thank you, Melissa. Europe has always been on our radar, and it was pre-COVID. And I'm not talking the United Kingdom, I'm specifically speaking Europe. Pre-COVID, we were looking at Condor Airlines because they actually do service to Antigua and to Barbados. However, with the COVID-19 pandemic, that emerging market, we have to put it on the back burner for stay over, for the simple reason, at this point in time, in terms of marketing dollars, we have to see where we right now have non-stop flights out of that part of the world, and the number 1 place that we have that for is the UK, British Airways. It is also not free of cost for the St. Kitts Tourism Authority. When new airlines come in, we either have to support the airlift through a revenue guarantee, or we have to do it through a marketing fund. So for us right now, for the next year, our focus is going to be on British Airways out of Gatwick. It does not mean that we're not looking on how it can connect. One of the issues that we have found is that Virgin is now at Heathrow, and they're flying from the Caribbean from Heathrow. Gatwick does not offer that connectivity, and for those of you who don't know, Gatwick is about 1.5 hours from Heathrow, so it doesn't provide much of an option. It is something that we will look at, but as of right now, what can turn the dial for stay over is the United States market, and looking at Canada and UK when they open. And for cruise, we already have those relationships with those cruise lines such as Costa, AIDA, TUI. So cruise, not that it will not be an issue, but we have those relationships established for cruise travel, but not for stay over. I hope I clarified.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Boone?
Good morning, Richard Boone, Timothy Beach Resort. Minister, thank you for assembling this get-together this morning. I got a comment and a question. The comment is regarding the vaccine. I would like to see a better distribution over the airwaves about the message. The message is important, it's strong, it's clear, it's concise. I was taken aback a little bit by some of the details we learned this morning. I think all the radio stations, ZIZ for sure, and then the other ones could be encouraged to, on a complimentary basis, of course, after all, you do hold the licenses for them, on a complimentary basis, to air your commercial with the message. But I think the airwaves need to be saturated, and then all the social media, which I'm not very knowledgeable about, but certainly the airwaves need to be saturated with that message. That whole 70% thing or whatever, you know, that's a huge education. And if that's the goalpost, how can we play the game if most of the people don't even know, you know, where the goal is? So I would ask that that happens, you know, fairly soon. The other issue is a little bit more personalized to my own small little business. I'm still struggling with the travel seal of approval. And I would like to know, I don't do committees real well, so I would like to know to whom should I address myself, not now over the microphone, but at a later point, soon, regarding the travel seal of approval, because I'm left wandering out in the desert. I got to come home real soon, otherwise I'll be one of those statistics you were referring to about shutting the door in July. So I will ask the question, to whom should I address myself at a later point?
Me again, Mr. Boone.
Okay, you got it, and count on it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Boone. Do we have another question?
Deborah Kramer, J. Kramer Real Estate and Mangoland Gallery. Question, the 70% that needs to be vaccinated, does the health department have enough vaccines to vaccinate 70% of the island, fully vaccinate them? Is there such a thing? Do we have enough vaccinations to fully vaccinate 70% of the island?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kramer. I will direct that question to Mr. Samuel.
Pleasant good morning, and thank you, Ms. Kramer, for your question. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis has been sourcing vaccines from various facilities. One is such the COVAX facility. We have also had bilateral engagements with countries that we are friendly with in terms of accessing vaccines. For example, the Taiwanese government has also committed X amount of support, financial support to access vaccines. We are waiting for another batch of 20,000 plus vaccines that should be arriving in country in the near future. Can I give you an exact date? The CMO is on her way. She has the statistics on that. But hopefully, soon we should have the sufficient vaccines to cover the population. I will say that to you. So the challenge right now is getting what we have on hand into the hands. That is the major challenge. So it don't really make sense right now that these vaccines that have expiry dates, we go and we get 100,000 vaccines and we cannot get 10 hands to put them in. So that is the challenge. That is the major challenge. We have another batch, as I said, of vaccines coming. And right now, we have, as you all are aware, we have only administered 7,000 plus vaccines. We have sufficient to do the second dose of the vaccine. However, when the other 20,000 plus comes and those that we are accessing by COVAX facilities and other bilateral agreements, what will happen then? So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you have the urgency that we at the head table have in terms of getting people vaccinated. If you look at the Cayman Islands and Bermuda, they are the model. They are already at 50% vaccination. If we really want to get the tourism sector, which we have prioritized right now in terms of our roadmap to recovery, then, ladies and gentlemen, we have to get the population vaccinated. If we don't, we are going to slowly take St. Kitts and Nevis into a socio-economic death, slow death. The vaccination, since we said it, since we started the fight against the COVID-19 vaccine, vaccination is the only way we are going to get out of this. So therefore, we are hopeful that we can get the vaccination, but we will have the vaccines, Ms. Kramer, to vaccinate the population here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Samuel. Ms. Brown wanted to add something.
And if I could just add extra urgency to this, the first batch that we got, where it was 22,000, and we know we gave 2,000 to Grenada, there's 20,000 in there, and there are 10,000 persons that need to get vaccinated. Of the 6,000 plus persons that have been vaccinated already, their second shot is secured. Now remember what I just said. Not even 10% of that 20,000 that have been vaccinated already, 6,000 plus, are tourism stakeholders. So what that means is we have to now wait for the next batch to come, and we all know the world demands on vaccination. That then puts us in a position we are not competitive. Not because we have not tried, but because there's a lot of negativity and persons not really listening and understanding what is really going on, not just about economics, but health. So I just wanted to put it in perspective. So let us hypothetically say, if 5,000 persons were vaccinated in the tourism industry, what could we possibly do to help? We can't even have that discussion with the task force or cabinet, because not even 10% of the 6,000 plus are vaccinated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brown. Mr. Glassford?
Yeah, Samuel Glassford. The thing is, if you go to a doctor, you get a prescription, and you fill it within a day or two, unless it's a holiday and you can't get it done. And we are getting this prescription all the time from 2 months now about this vaccine, and we still won't go. And I don't understand it. The best thing in life to me is free. And air is free, water is free, and if you go to the hospital, you got to pay for your oxygen. The same air you could get. It's free. So I think everybody should go and get the vaccine. And I really want to go and work because I'm broke. Broke. So, and talking about what Mr. Grant said about the guy who he picked up this morning, I had the same experience. I talked to a taxi driver one day, and he told me that he normally pick up a bread every morning from the bread van. And this morning the bread van came and he didn't have $1 to buy bread. So he went in the back of the yard and he cried. And he have 2 children. I mean, we really got to get rid of this thing. We got to fight it. That's all for me, right?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Glassford. Yes, Mr. Ali.
Good morning, everyone. Members at the head table. Ms. Brown, good morning. Nice to see you. Addy.
I haven't seen you.
Yeah, Addy. This meeting is more than timely, maybe a little late. I think we need to have more meaningful dialogue on an increased frequency. As you said in your opening remarks, the last one was not 1 year ago, 12 months ago. That's a long time, okay? Our industry is in a crisis, and we need meetings often and fast. The conditions for opening our tourist industry are changing rapidly. When the COVID began, we did not have much information. A lot of information is out, and things are changing rapidly. We need to have the frequency of meetings for the stakeholders on an increased frequency. A question which Mr. Grant might be able to answer. We are following up, most of the stakeholders are following up what's happening on the internet. So it's an information age, and we know what's happening, okay? And we understand that of most of the islands that you've mentioned, St. Martin, Bahamas, Barbados in particular, they're on the ball. And they have already, the governments have already submitted their protocols. St. Kitts, we understand, has not submitted protocols yet. If we are going to lead, we got to lead from in front. Barbados has stepped out, and very early they've made some mistakes. And one of the things we have to realize, even in growing up, you have to get burnt. Okay? You have to try something out. You get burnt and you learn. Sometimes sitting back and not getting the burnt, you don't learn anything. Barbados has gotten burnt, but they're out front. And as you know, Mr. Grant, the Prime Minister there, she ain't making jokes. She's now home porting. St. Martin is home porting. We don't have to sit down and probably wait for the CDC in the United States. We could home port in the Caribbean. We are doing it already. Okay? So as things change, worldwide we could change. We don't have to wait for the CDC in the USA to do things. We could do things on our own. I'd like to hear the answers. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I'll just take one more question before we... Minister, would you want to answer? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Adams, for your statement and your question, but I'd like to correct you in my answer. You said that St. Kitts has not submitted their protocols. I want this room to understand that's most erroneous. There's a healthy sail panel in the Caribbean, of which Prime Minister Motley of Barbados heads. It is, the protocols have been disseminated to the industry, the cruise industries in the Caribbean. We have been asked for our comments on the protocols. St. Kitts, through the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, has submitted our protocols. We are waiting the draft with our comments and the others' comments to come back to us for the Healthy Sail panel to then have a final document for which all the countries would adhere to. That's one. Two, the Tourism Authority has submitted a set of protocols to the task force, and I'm now speaking nationally, which will be dealt with in due course. So nationally, we have submitted our protocols. Regionally, we have submitted our comments on the protocols that have been provided to us. And so we await the Healthy Sail panel sending back the final draft of that document to us. The second comment I would wish to make is that you spoke about home porting. Certain you would have heard that the CEO of the Tourism Authority indicate that home porting for us at this point in time is not a reality. It's not a reality because we don't have the capacity. We don't have the capacity because if one of those mega ships come in, we're talking 6,000 plus passengers. We don't have the capacity in terms of the airlines. We don't have the capacity in terms of the hotels. As a matter of fact, the CEO would agree with me that on every meeting that we've had with the cruise lines, we've spoken to them about home porting prior to COVID. And the answer always has been that we do not have the capacity as yet. We need to get more hotel rooms to be able to accommodate home porting. I hope that answers the questions that you pose.
Thank you, Minister. Yes, sir.
Hello, very good morning, everyone. Very much appreciate this meeting. My name is Christopher Eastman. I'm the General Manager of Belmont Farm, Catition Hill. One is more a comment and then another is a question. We talked about the vaccine and you hit the nail on the head, Minister, with reference to the persons who are not taking up these offers of vaccination. I remember from our meeting last year, and even before then, that they said our way out of this was the vaccine. And I can remember the majority of my staff saying, yeah, we can't wait to take that, even months before this. Now the vaccine is here, and all the misinformation that has been going around, many of them are very scared. They don't understand about it, about the benefits as such. They don't see the correlation with us getting back on track with them having to take it. I took it myself, and I know my whole team were watching me the next morning to see if I would get out of my bed and see if I would be okay. I'm glad that I was, and even if I didn't, I wouldn't have told them anyhow. But I think we must also work at a grassroots level when we're communicating with our teams. I think, yes, putting things on the airwaves is all great, and I think we should continue to do that. This morning, I had invited some medical professionals to come to the hotel to speak to the team directly. Half of my team are there right now, listening to the presentation and there to answer their questions. As you know, when you're in a big forum, persons probably don't like to get up or raise their hand necessarily, but I think in a forum like that, where they're amongst people that they know, they can ask a question and more pertinent questions, and maybe that is something that you may need to look at moving forward. My actual question that I have is to do with, we talked about international travel, but I'm just wondering how we are with regional travel and regional bubble. If you remember, we had that, it wasn't very successful. However, as we are all beginning to vaccinate more, especially in the other countries, let's say Barbados, Antigua, and what have you, to get this herd immunity, is there any thought about reinstating or working with governments to see if this travel bubble could be reinstated, or we could actually have guests from those islands coming to stay with us here in St. Kitts? That's enough for me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I think that question will need to be answered in two parts. So I'll let Ms. Brown go first, and then we can skip over to Dr. Lords or Mr. Samuel. So, Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Chris. I think right now everyone understands that vaccination is going to determine what bubbles exist for tourism, because they will be guided by health. So I'll let Dr. Law speak to that in its entirety. The problem with the travel industry for the Caribbean right now is LIAT, as it sits in terms of the only carrier that is really servicing most of the Caribbean. Also, many of the persons in the Caribbean who would traditionally travel, they have been hit hard economically. Their economies are not what they used to be a year or two ago, so we see reductions in that space. It is not something that we're not aware of, But as it stands right now, the only carrier that is servicing all of the Caribbean regionally is Liat. And their frequency and schedule is dependent on what is happening in the market. And right now, in the market, the demand for regional travel is just based really on people going home or doing business, and also with Zoom and Google meetings, a lot of that travel has been reduced for business travel. So it will take time, but our focus right now is on the US market, just because we know that the persons that we speak to in our demographic, they're allowed to travel. Many of them are getting vaccinated and they have the disposable income to do so.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brown. We are pleased to have with us this morning our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Laws, and I will invite her now to speak to the question of the possible reintroduction of our Caribbean bubble.
Thank you, Melnesia, and a pleasant good morning to everyone. Thank you for having me at this forum. In terms of your question regarding regional bubble, now regional initiatives of this nature are really discussed on the regional platform in terms of at the CARICOM level, CARICOM Secretariat level, and at CARPHA, Caribbean Public Health Agency. So just last Friday, we would have met, meaning the regional chief medical officers, in discussion with the Caribbean Public Health Agency, looking at the present status of the COVID-19 pandemic as it relates to the Caribbean. Now, a bubble is developed based on risk and level of risk. And if you are following up what's happening in our regional islands, there aren't many, in our present state, because the outbreak in Antigua Barbuda is quite significant. Their numbers continue to rise. So is the situation in Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. So if you were to say look at those islands, they are at present concentrating on containing the spread of the virus, along with rolling out their vaccination program. And so St. Kitts and Nevis is in a good place, whereby we don't have clusters, we are not in community spread. Similarly, Anguilla, Montserrat, but all the other islands, their situation is a little bit more, a little worse than we are. So bubbles are created based on risk. So at this point in time, I'm not sure if there is a discussion right now regarding bubble. The other islands are concentrating on containment and rolling out their vaccine program. So again, the possibility of a bubble all depends on our success in terms of rolling out the vaccine. And at the end of the day, it comes down to acceptance. What's the level of acceptance amongst the people of each of the Caribbean islands? In St. Kitts, our biggest risk right now is acceptance of the vaccine. Access to the vaccine is a challenge. As you would have heard yesterday at the press conference, the Prime Minister's press conference, the Cabinet is doing all it can in terms of accessing the additional COVID-19 vaccine doses that we require. So our biggest challenge is acceptance.
Okay. Thank you,
I
Dr.
would have
Laws.
answered your question.
Thank you, Dr. Laws. Is that okay? Okay. Yes, Mr. Matthew?
Good morning. Leroy Matthew, taxi operator. And just want to adopt the protocol that was adopted earlier. And I want to apologize for those people who may not understand what I'm saying before I make mistakes, okay? I cannot present as good as some people. Ms. Brown make a nice presentation. Mr. Grant follow up talking about some things. And 2020 was still is, but it was a very challenging year. And we had a meeting at Royal St. Kitts. And I begged, Mr. Grant was present, Ms. Brown, Ms. Morton, Ms. Marshall was present. I begged them to look at a fee, a $40 fee, for what we call a decal fee for the taxi drivers. Only $40. And people say, only $40, but if a man don't have money to buy a bread, you can't waive a $40 fee to help the taxi driver. Because up until today, I haven't seen one thing the authority did to ease the financial strain of the taxi drivers. Not one. Not one phone call about last year, about how you're getting through. How could we assist you? Could we find something to do? Nothing. About 3 weeks ago, I took the vaccine because I think that's the best thing to do. Nobody to tell me take it, I take it. A week after, I get a call from tourism about taking the vaccine. No call about financial nothing, but yet you can call me about the vaccine. But when people talk, they become public enemy, number one. Some gazebo down Port Zante to repair. They got some taxi drivers are tradesmen, carpenters. No taxi driver get them. You got the boots them, the building them over black rocks to be repainted just now. You got a lot of painters taxi drivers. These are ways you can help taxi drivers. I believe we should take the vaccine. I will encourage everybody to take the vaccine because this meeting is about taking the vaccine. This meeting is about taking the vaccine. Not to put $2 in a man's pocket to buy a bread. And why people are so negative about the vaccine? Because there was no communication with the normal man, the street man, all the months over a year. But now we can call him about the vaccine. And all the time, man home hungry. I was fortunate not to be in that position. And I help people too. And I believe I help a lot of people because I was able to financially balance myself. I want the tourism authority to reach out to the normal man to see how they can help them. People are suffering. Some people don't know about hardship, especially when they're making $20,000 a month. A man ain't making nothing. Question, what are you going to do to assist the taxi drivers?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Matthew. The Minister or Ms. Brown? Ms. Brown? You want to go first? Okay. Minister Grant will respond.
Thank you for that statement and question. I would just like to say that it is not 100% correct to say that we have not helped the taxi fraternity. And when I say we, I don't want to pin it down just to the tourism authority, but we have to look at the entire government. We had a stimulus program, second to none in the Caribbean. We spent in excess of $28 million on our stimulus program. In fact, coming more specific to your fraternity, during the course of the stimulus program, we had cause to have meetings with the presidents of the various taxi associations because part of their concern was that Social Security was not affording them the luxury of the stimulus program because many of your fraternal brothers and sisters were not paying into the fund. As a consequence of that meeting, we made overtures to the cabinet to include many of your brothers and sisters, not through the Social Security since they had not been paying into the fund, but through another fund so that they can benefit from the stimulus program, although they had not paid into the Social Security fund. And so we did help in that regard. Now I take your point that maybe you are now saying that you need some additional help. Having gotten help before, I don't have a problem with that. So maybe you can have that channel through your presidents to come to a meeting with whatever idea you may have for a further stimulus to see if the government would have the appetite to do so. In terms of the campaign and the vaccine, I will let Dr. Laws or Mr. Samuels answer that. That's above my pay grade.
Okay, so Dr. Laws or Mr. Samuel?
Thank you, Melnicio. I just want to add to the comment that that was made by the last person who came up to the mic. Since the inception I remember that once we started our public communication programs, we've been communicating to the general public that the only way we could get out of the pandemic is through vaccination. And we have always continued the public education regarding vaccination. You all know that the situation is rather fluid, and as such we continue to adjust on the go. We started the vaccination program, as you saw, with the 2,000 vaccine that would have started. And from there on, we have been going in stages or phases in terms of the public education program. And yes, we are reaching out to the grassroots individuals. We are going, as a matter of fact, the public health teams and other teams are actually walking in the communities, talking to the ordinary man in their ordinary language to reach that mass, because that's the grouping right now, that's the demographic group in our society that is not accepting the vaccine. So the programs that have been ongoing since last year, March, when we started our lockdowns, in terms of how do we recover from the pandemic. Dr. Laws?
Okay, with respect to our massive education campaign with regards to the COVID-19 vaccine, I must say that every Wednesday afternoon at 5, we have our NEOC debriefing. And I think from early January till present, almost every Wednesday, I speak to the COVID-19 vaccine personally. In terms of our national COVID-19 vaccine campaign, now that went into full swing about a week, 2 weeks prior to our giving the first jab. Now this is fluid. We got our first tranche of vaccines as a gift, a donation from Dominica. So we didn't have much forewarning. However, prior to that, we went into full swing in terms of providing the public with all the facts as we know it regarding the vaccine. Now, at present, we are trying to reach the ordinary person in St. Kitts Nevis through different mediums. So, for example, we are going to the churches. The churches are reaching out to us, and the various workplaces, public and the private sector. And so we are using these avenues to reach everyone. And also, we are also utilizing the community centers within each community to reach the ordinary person in terms of providing the necessary information, empowering individuals to make informed decisions, and in so doing create demand and acceptance for the vaccine?
I just would like to answer the question because I do believe we haven't answered it yet. In relation to the $40 decal fee, we were asked this question also by taxi presidents, and I've also been asked it individually. Let me just first put it into perspective. Normally, we would charge $100 for the customer service training. If you do realize, outside of the customer service training this year, we had to do travel approved training for the entire industry. We normally do it specific to sectors, which includes taxi and tour operators. That training has cost the Tourism Authority for this year alone $100,000. Because we have to have partners, not just from the public sector who provide us assistance, but we've had consultants that we have had to pay for the training that I hope everyone in this room had to do. We also had to do it specific to your sector. So normally we would have, vendors, taxi and tour operators in a general session. We had to do food and beverage. We had to do bars separately. We had to do taxi operators separately. We had to do front desk separately. So this was not typical. Also, we had to follow COVID-19 protocols by the number of persons. We did not waive the fee for the decal. We start waiving the fee. That would have increased for the training, which we estimated would have been $150, Mr. Limat. However, Leroy Matthew, we waived the fee. If you did the travel approved training, you did not pay a fee. You also did not pay a fee at SCASPA for parking. So I'm simply saying there's a little bit of a give and take, and we did this in training for everyone in the industry. So I say sometimes, yes, it is difficult, but the Tourism Authority does not have the income to waive everything. So I hope you understand. We made a decision to waive the training fee, which was more, versus the $40 for the decal, which also includes the new travel approved seal. So you got 2 seals, you're redoing of your decal to drive your vehicle because you're not a taxi operator, and you got the travel approved decal for free. So you paid $40 for 2 decals because we have these new protocols in place for COVID-19.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Shoba, you've been waiting a little while, so I'll let you go, and then Mrs. Morton also has to add another point, but I'll let you go first.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here and putting this together. I would like to say, since the only way through this is to get herd immunity, that's what we all agree on. And that's where we're having our challenge. So I'm saying, why can't we set a date, a timeline, that by third quarter, September 30th, September 1st, so that the general public knows there's pressure. Right now there's no urgency. Everybody is waiting to see what happens. Like the gentleman from Kittishan's Hill said, to see if he fell down, to see if somebody dies of a blood clot. People are not rushing to go and get it. There's no urgency. We need a deadline. I think that is the only way we are going to see people come forward.
That's it?
And then my second point is, I've been asking a few people, but I've never had such a captive panel to ask this question to. Why can't it be mandated? Food handlers' permits are mandated. Mask is mandated. To go to primary school, we need all the inoculations. Those need to be mandated. To get on a flight, for me to go to India, I need yellow fever and malaria.
Excuse me, sorry.
Mandated. That this is what we need for our country to recover.
Excuse
Those are
me.
my 2 questions.
Sorry, Ms. Shoba. We have some happenings over on this side. I'm sorry to point you out, but it was getting a little loud. Sorry. No, go ahead, Ms. Shoba.
No, I'm finished. Those are
You're
my 2
finished?
questions, a date and a mandate.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Shoba. So I'll take those down to Dr. Laws and Mr. Samuel, and then we'll get to Mrs. Morton.
Oh, Ms. Money, you want to give it? All right. Thank you, Shoba, for your question, and that is something that we have been grappling with regionally and even internationally. If the government of St. Kitts and Nevis tomorrow says mandate the vaccine, we have another type of pandemic. We will have another type of pandemic, which is the violation of their human rights and constitutional rights and everything else. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, Shoba, yes. Can you?
But, sorry, if you become a public health risk to other human beings, surely that's why we have quarantine, surely that's why we wear masks, because it becomes a public health problem if you are not inoculated. You're putting other people at risk. And that's, I mean, the same precedent that is set by masks, and that the same precedent that's set by other inoculations, by measles, mumps, by the quarantine, is because we're trying to keep our public safe. So those same precedents should be the same thing if we have to mandate the vaccine.
We want to continue seeing the best of you today.
Okay,
yeah?
You're going to get it.
You want to continue to see the best.
Again, we have had this consultation. The Attorney General was consulted in this matter from the task force itself, because even within the task force, the last task force meeting, that was one of the key discussion points. At what point would the government look at mandating this, and if that is something legally, constitutionally possible?
But sir, it is mandated for primary school. It is mandated for going on trips. It is the food handler's permit is mandated.
But remember, the food handler's permit is not putting anything into your body, yeah? It's not inoculating anything into the body. The mask is not inoculating anything into your body.
But for school.
Right, but again, the test is not injecting anything into your body. I'm just telling you. I'm just sharing with you. We have been consulting with the legal teams. We have been consulting with the general public, and I can tell you, that's why I said to you, if the government mandates that tomorrow, we have a different pandemic in the country.
We mandated for the primary school children who are younger, whose bodies can take less. And there's all that uproar about autism and MMR and all of that. And we still do it.
So I'm happy to hear it coming from you. So maybe what you can do is be an advocate in the communities, be an advocate in the business place, help us in the airways and so on. Let us see the best side of Shoba, and maybe you can influence the general public to be able to accept it.
I'm getting a lot of resistance because, first of all, with our staff, they have never had to experience COVID. We have been very well protected. So that urgency and that need and that lack of safety isn't there.
Right. Okay.
Right? Number one. And number two is because they know you can still get COVID even if you take the vaccine. You won't be hospitalized, you probably won't die. So the thing is, what's the point? Okay. Is their question to me. Right? And so
okay.
That's the resistance we're getting.
Right.
And people in St. Kitts think COVID equal death. They don't think 98% of people do recover. Right. And that's where the problem is.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to share this with you. We receive a letter, we receive some complaints from the Trades and Labor Union, whereby they were saying that the language that is being used by employers of business places to their staff seems to indicate that it's mandatory for them to take the vaccine, otherwise they are going to lose their job. And you would have seen the release. You would have seen the national release that would have came from the Trades and Labor Union cautioning against such. So that's why we are saying it's a delicate balance as to when the government itself would have to review that potential avenue of making it mandatory to accept the vaccine, because there's a lot of underlying issues regarding making that mandatory.
But so
okay, at this stage.
It's not ruled out. It's a process.
It's not a rule out. It's something that the government is said correct. Okay. So for now, I think the best way right now is for us to encourage them. I mean, we hitting the. I mean, for example, let me give you one example. We are actually taking the vaccines to the workplaces, industrial sites. Yesterday at the industrial site, a session was done, and only about 20% or less of the persons that were that received the educational program would have actually accepted the vaccines, and those who are accepting the vaccines were actually non-nationals. Yeah. And that's the true reality. Yeah. So the question is, what are we willing to do to support the vaccination rollout program? That's the reality.
There is such a fear, I'm telling you, everybody I talk to, there is such a fear. And then the media with the blood clot and the FDA not approving it yet is not helping our cause.
Shova, I welcome your questions.
Thank you.
You asked two main questions. Why isn't it mandatory? Now, the vaccine really is a biological product injected into your body, your human body. And so there's an element of consent that's required because it's your human right. If you make it mandatory, you're violating really your human right. And so that's why internationally, globally, the consensus is that you don't go the route of making it mandatory. Yeah, you appeal to your sense of self. The aim is to provide each individual the facts, appeal to their sense of self and patriotism, etc., to make that right decision. Yeah, and it goes against the culture, our culture, and constitutional rights. It goes against that. But and so that's why it's important for each and every one of us who are present, because the concept here in the Ministry of Health is each one reach one. Each of us reach one, reach two, reach three, and then we would eventually reach the population. So that's why we need each of you on the platform, in your workplace, in your space, in your social network. Hey, if we all get vaccinated, we can all interact and intermingle without having to worry. And if you spread that, and if you convince more and more persons, we will get where we want to reach. Last night I received a call from Jamaica. This is a locally born person from St. Kitts and Nevis. Hazel, how can you send me vaccine? There are X number of Kittitians living in Jamaica, and because of their prioritization system there, they are not in the lineup anytime now. So hey, Kittitians don't want it. Nevisians don't, you have the vaccine, they don't want it, but we want it. How do we get the vaccine? How do you get the vaccine to us in Jamaica? And these are locals because they understand the importance and the sense of urgency. Your question, deadline. What really would the deadline say? Yeah, beyond what date, what happens? Okay, I can speak to the batch we have in hand. The deadline for use is the 20-something of June. I don't remember, it's in my phone. Yeah? So actually, there is a deadline. This batch, we have to reach the 10,000 persons by the 16th of April 2021.
But we need to put that out there.
I have, repeatedly.
I didn't know about it, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm
So the present
All right.
batch, we need to reach the 10,000 by April 16th.
That needs to be up there. I will spread that.
So what does that really mean? That's the sense of urgency. As a matter of fact, there are persons in other islands who do not have access to vaccines. How can you get the vaccines to us since your people do not want it?
Our people, because we haven't faced COVID. That's the problem. That's
But sorry,
all right.
Melissa, let me just make one more point. Actually, we have had individuals flying from overseas, nationals return from overseas, quarantine for the 14 days, take the vaccine and leave.
Because they understand.
And willing to come back. So,
all right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry. We have quite a few more. I know this debate is very, very interesting.
But I'm sure that Dr. Laws and Mr. Samuel will be happy to continue some further discussions later on. But we have quite a few online questions as well. And we also have to hear from Mrs. Morton. So we'll take these last two questions after Mrs. Morton, and then we will go directly to the online questions.
Okay, I just wanted to ask a question of the taxi associations, if I may. Have you had meetings with your members to appeal to them, perhaps bring in a doctor or some other resource person to speak to them? Because as the gentleman from Petition Hill said, sometimes when people are in smaller groups, they're more likely to express their concerns there publicly and to raise their hands and ask questions and so on. They may not want to do it in a larger group where they have a number of persons with whom they're not familiar. So if there's anybody from any of the taxi associations, have you done that? Mr. Flames, I see you up to the mic, so.
You're looking for my answer?
Yeah, from your association.
Yes, up to this morning, David Brandy, Lemega Taxi Association. Up to this morning, we, the president, had discussion on a meeting for taxi drivers pertaining
I don't mean the presidents among themselves. I'm talking about
taxi drivers pertaining the vaccine.
Okay.
Meaning we'll try and engage one of these individuals here to come and speak to us.
Okay.
If I may finish my
No, when I'm finished.
Oh, okay.
Because I think that is absolutely critical.
It is critical.
Absolutely critical. Apart from that, I think it would be very good, the optics of once a very large number of taxi operators have taken their vaccination, I think it would be good for you to have some picture, some ad, some campaign, some promo, something that you have done together saying the words that we have been vaccinated or whatever it is, because people are looking on. And wherever you can get the word in, wherever avenue you can use to get the message out, that people in the industry, in the sector are actually getting vaccinated, I think that is going to help. So that would be my recommendation, my suggestion, sooner rather than later, that you get as many persons in the taxi fraternity as you possibly can. Please appeal to them to get vaccinated, because they're on the front line. I could imagine how Ms. Brown feels. I'm going to tell you why. Ms. Brown spoke very passionately at one of our task force meetings about prioritizing the industry. You can remember Ms. Brown? And you
Mrs. Martin, why are you going there?
Yes. And, basically she was being told that, you have to be careful. You can't seem to prioritize one sector over the next and so on and so forth. And she kept making the point, but these people are on the front line and that thing. And now the same persons who she went out to bat for are not taking the vaccination.
P.S. The reality is going to be, and I have to say it in here, so the taxi drivers and the tour operators can understand. The reality is going to be very soon that when the cruise lines are saying to us that they're bringing all their passengers vaccinated, bringing all their crew vaccinated, they are going to want to deal with service providers who are likewise vaccinated. Very simple. So if the taxi drivers and the tour operators don't line up to take the vaccines, the ships will come and leave you behind. That is going to be the stark reality just now.
Minister, if I may.
The cruise lines are going to say to those in the catamaran industry, if you are going to take my customers on board, your crew have to be vaccinated. So very shortly, it is not going to be whether you really want to take it, it is going to be whether or not you want to be in business. Bottom line, not the government, not me, but the cruise lines are going to dictate by how they operate what the status quo
will be. So I want you to take that on board this morning as you leave.
Minister, if I may add something, because my mind has gone a little further than that. There might be certain cruise lines that may say, we are not coming to St. Kitts because enough of your population is not vaccinated. You don't know, that's what I'm saying. That might very well be, as Minister is saying, the government may be hesitant about dictating certain things, but the cruise lines are not going to be hesitant. They're going to make it very clear what their expectations are and which destinations they would be prioritizing based on what is the level of vaccination of your population. Because even if, Minister, you have a taxi driver or a catamaran cruise operator who is vaccinated, if his persons in his home are not vaccinated, because he got to come out of a home, she has to come out of wherever, right? Enough persons in where you work are not vaccinated, because remember, the vaccination covers you up to a certain percentage, 70% or how much ever it is, 90% effective, which means there's a small window that even though you were vaccinated, you still can be sick. So, if I were a cruise line, and I wanted to guarantee to my passengers and my crew that I'm doing everything that I can to keep you safe, I may make the decision to avoid certain destinations where the population has not been vaccinated up to a particular level. So, I mean, those are things that we have to begin to seriously think about. People might say you're using scare tactics and so on, but it is the reality. It is the reality of what is going on. I said to Minister, and I think Minister has said it the last town hall that they had there, St. Kitts appears to be a victim of its own success. Nobody has died. Nobody has been seriously, hospitalized and that kind of thing. And people think, no community spread, and people think that that is going to remain like that forever and ever. Amen. But we might be playing a very dangerous game. And by the time, God forbid, anything begins to happen, and there's a stampede on the clinics for people to get vaccinated and so on, we may not have the number of vaccines, the doses available to us. Because as the people, the CMO is saying, and Mr. Samuel is saying, we are not going to bring in all of these vaccinations, and they have a deadline by which they're supposed to be used, and people do not seem to be interested in accessing the vaccinations. For what? As a matter of fact, even if we ask, the answer may very well be your people don't seem to want, there are other destinations that want the vaccinations, we're going to give them to other destinations. So those are the scenarios that I know for sure at the Ministry of Tourism that we are seriously contemplating, and they are sources of serious concern for us. So we need individually and collectively to get the word out, nudge your child, nudge your brother, talk over the fence, do whatever it is you need to do to get people understanding that we have to get vaccinated. 70%, that is what we are saying. We need to get to 70%. Whatever we need to do to get the message out there, let's get cracking, because we are getting to a very critical point. And we don't want to have any serious regrets at the end of all of this. Because a lot of fingers are going to point, If things begin to go wrong, it's going to be the ministry's fault, it's going to be the minister's fault, it's going to be the SKTA's fault, the COVID-19 task force. You all didn't put enough messages out there to people. I mean, it's going to be everybody else's fault, except the persons who chose not to get vaccinated when it was free and readily available. So let us avoid regrets. Go on out and get vaccinated. That's my thing on the whole matter.
Thank you, Mrs. Martin. I know Dr. Laws has something to add, but what we're going to do really quickly, we're going to take these three last, if you can just give us your questions, the three last questions, and then we will move forward from there. So we'll have the questions from online, and then I'll have each panelist answer the questions that are posed to them and give their wrap-up at the same time. Okay? So if you can just ask your questions, and I'll ask the panelists to note the questions. Mr. Brandy, sorry.
Yes, thank you. A lot have been said. I think we just still need to educate and encourage. That should be the word. Mandatory shouldn't be used in terms of vaccination. And though we applaud what was said by individuals, we need to encourage. I mean, I had two individuals.
Sorry, Mr. Brandy, not to cut you, but we're really trying to be precise, so if you can give us your question.
My question.
Thank you.
My question. Is it not the privilege of individuals who are listening or who would have listened and watched so much information about the vaccination in its negative form for some of us to be holding out? And so this is why I'm saying more education for it, on it will be welcomed. So many people saying, don't take it because you're getting lump in your arm and so on, and we would have heard it. So let us not downplay the negativity, but to be encouraged others to take the vaccine.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brandy. Yes, Nick?
Hi, no, Rohan.
Rohan, sorry. I keep mixing up the two of you.
No, that's fine. Good morning, everyone. I have a two-part question. I know you guys mentioned that, mandating a vaccine is
Sorry, the corner, I'm just going to put this corner over here in timeout right now. So everyone over in this corner, yes, that keeps disturbing Mr. Bass. Not the preacher, Mr. Bass. Talbot, Mr. Bass. Could you? No, Mr. Bass. We are going to go back to Rohan. Thank you.
Yes, so, as I've been hearing that mandating a vaccine is not in talks right now, and it's something that may not happen. Is there a deadline that we have to submit to the cruise lines? Because I've been reading a lot about these other islands that have been getting cruises. Is there a deadline for us to submit as to when we will start accepting cruises for the winter season? And secondly, if a ship is fully vaccinated and St. Kitts hasn't reached the 70% herd immunity, will we accept a fully vaccinated ship?
Okay, thank you, Rohan. Ms. Walwyn?
Actually, it's a follow-up on Rohan's question. Mine is, we have a threshold that we need to reach. So once we can reach that threshold, we can lift the quarantine. We are a vaccinated destination, so we can hopefully restart the economy. I don't know the statistics, so when do we need to reach that threshold by? So for example, in order for us to be able to start opening from November with no quarantine, do we need to have reached a threshold by August, by September? I think if people have a better understanding, we must reach this threshold by a certain time realistically in order for us to start looking at things like, the quarantining, the coming in, and be able to say, you can come, we're ready.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Walwyn. Some of the questions that have been posed in this last round, they're very similar to what we have seen online. And I'll just quickly, and these questions are for the panel. Will there be any changes to the requirements for persons entering the Federation who are fully vaccinated? So that was one. There is a plea for persons who are NEVIS who have not yet received their severance payment. So there's a plea for assistance with that. The other question that I received online, can we focus on vaccinating the tourism sector as a priority rather than trying to reach for herd immunity? So that is another question for the panel. And of course, we would have had our questions from the floor. Many of the questions that we had from online, they actually would have been answered during our discussion a little while ago, so we don't need to go through those. But for the benefit of those online, the person who would have asked about when the batch expires for the vaccine, Dr. Laws would have indicated that the 16th of April that we need to use the vaccines that we currently... No, Dr. Laws, there's a change? Okay, Dr. Laws will speak to that. There seems to be a change in the date. Okay, so we'll go directly to the panel now, and we will ask Ms. Brown to go first, and then we will go to Dr. Laws and Mr. Samuel, Ms. Morton, and then the minister.
Just to answer the questions as it speaks to cruise lines and our level of queries in terms of what is required. You all are very much aware that there are 4 ships now home porting in the Caribbean, in Bermuda, Barbados, St. Martin, and Bahamas. St. Kitts is not on the itinerary, and St. Kitts is not on none of those itineraries at this point in time, because the reality is that where we sit as it relates to our protocols for travel requirements, the travel requirements at this point in time do not, for the cruise lines, are not universal for them to bring cruise passengers. Yes, the 72-hour RT-PCR test has to be done in the home port before they depart. However, our travel restrictions are a little more strict, and we know that, and we are okay with that because it has kept us safe. But the situation is that we're not on the itineraries in relation to the Caribbean because of our travel requirements. I hope I've answered that question. Also, I think it is imperative that we're speaking a lot about cruise, but I want to speak about hoteliers. You also need to get your hotel team members vaccinated, because the reality is, for you to continue to exist and to be competitive, all of your staff, all of you have restaurants. The tourism industry cannot exist without everyone being in the bubble, whether you're retail, and when I say bubble, I mean the vaccination bubble, whether we're working up at the airport. So the situation is, as Mrs. Martin said, we cannot be looking to government, we cannot be looking to health. My question to all of you in here, because majority of you are either small or medium enterprise owners, what are you doing to have those conversations with your fellow hoteliers, taxi operators, drivers, to get vaccinated, or your team members? Because as Dr. Laws and Mr. Samuel have explained, it is a humanitarian issue to enforce it, to legally enforce it, to mandate it. So the question comes down to us. It comes down to us in the industry, and I want to be very, very clear about this. For us to have any discussions with the task force, bubble, no bubble, Phase 1, approved attractions. Where we sit now from 6 months ago is dependent on vaccination. It is just not your protocols anymore. It also includes vaccination. So it's a stark reality. There are other destinations, yes, that have started. Vaccination does not mean that they may not have spikes. There's risk involved, but where we sit now, that not even 10% of our tourism industry is not vaccinated, that is totally unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Dr. Laws?
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on what the PS said earlier. Right now, the CARICOM islands are being lined up against each other, and there is a comparison being made in terms of the number, the percentage of the population vaccinated. So when you look at the last thing that came out on March the 21st, St. Kitts says 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 from the bottom. Barbados is out front in terms of the numbers of persons and the percentage of the population vaccinated. So there is inevitably a comparison being made amongst the islands in terms of the percentage of your population vaccinated. So one of the questions will we accept fully vaccinated ships if we have not reached the threshold herd immunity? Now, it's going to be difficult to do so because then there's going to be a risk of community transmission and having clusters. So that's why it's very important to reach that herd immunity threshold. Let me just try and explain again. When you reach that 70% herd immunity threshold, if you have that big proportion of our population vaccinated, it provides indirect protection for those who cannot be vaccinated, meaning our children and those small, very small percentage of persons who have other chronic illnesses and cannot receive the vaccine. And so when that ship comes in with those fully vaccinated persons, they can then go to Port Zante and go around the islands, etc., without our having to worry about a cluster or cases developing. Yes, so that's why it's very important for our locals to see the bigger picture and accept this vaccine. Somebody asks, by when we would want to reach that herd immunity threshold. Ideally, from a Ministry of Health perspective, we would really like to reach that herd immunity threshold by early summer, by June, July. Again, we have two obstacles to overcome in reaching this target: access to the vaccines and acceptance based on our population. Now, the other question, if a fully vaccinated inbound passenger still has to quarantine, regrettably at this point, yes, because we are not yet at the herd immunity threshold. We recently had an inbound passenger came in fully vaccinated, quarantine, found to be positive in terms of having COVID-19. The other question, vaccinate the tourism sector versus reaching herd immunity. It doesn't work like that. When a tourist comes in, they're not going to just stay amongst the tourism sector. They're going to want to see St. Kitts and Nevis. They're going to want to have and experience the islands and mix with our people. And so you can't just focus on the tourism sector. But having said that, it's important for the tourism sector to be vaccinated because really and truly, you are frontline workers. Given the context of our population, when an inbound passenger comes in, they go to the airport, taxi, hotel. So you are frontline, and so it's important in so doing. Thank you. Expiry date, sorry. The present batch of vaccine expires the 27th of June. Remember, it's a 2-dose schedule. So we have to reach the 10,000 individuals by the 16th of April so that the 10 weeks, the person can get their second dose within the time frame of the expiry date.
I know that you said 10 weeks, but can we go earlier if to get second dose of vaccine?
Okay, so if you go earlier, let me just say, World Health Organization advises that if you use a dosing schedule 8 to 12 weeks, you achieve a higher efficacy. In other words, there's a reduction in your risk of being able to pick up COVID-19. So that's why at the Federation we've decided to use the 10-week dosing schedule because we know individuals will eventually come in 11 or the 12th week to get same. So you have a higher efficacy if you use a longer time interval, and so you will then have a lower, a reduced risk of picking up the virus.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Laws. Mrs. Samuel?
Yes, I just wanted to address a question that was asked by Ms. Wallowin regarding how soon, and CMO would have said early summer. We were hoping that we would have had that drive and demand for the vaccine once it was rolled out, that by at least the next upcoming winter season, that St. Kitts and Nevis would have had no restrictions basically on inbound passengers. The tourism sector would have at least be restored to a sense of normalcy. As a matter of fact, as I said it before in higher forums,
Sorry to use this comparison with no offense to nobody. But guess what? During an election day when we go to vote, within a 12 hours period, over almost 35 to 40,000 persons go out and vote. We are now in almost week 5 or 6, and we have only reached 7,000 plus persons vaccinated. So if we really want to reach that stage that will bring a sense of normalcy, we have to indulge these individuals, in particular the grassroots people, to vaccinate, and that's the reality. That's the true reality. If we could have got everybody vaccinated within the next 3 to 4 weeks and reach herd immunity, let's do it. Let's do it. That's the reality. But the problem is the demand is not there. That's the reality.
Mike.
Okay.
Why not we use an incentive system? Now, we could pay $100, $100. We could take it out of in the budget minister. How much we had for the guys there, man? So we could take it out of that. If we have 50,000 people on St. Kitts Nevis, 70% is about what, 35,000 people. We pay $100,000, $3.5 million.
Talbot, how much are you willing to contribute?
I'll contribute $1,000. But things are slow. You know, me working for a whole year. I mean, I'm willing to contribute. And we get to the businesses and so, but really and truly, we need the drive. An incentive might help it.
But Talbot, let me just say that some business places are giving incentives, and even by them giving incentives, people are just not going to accept the vaccine.
The incentive that if you take it, you get $100. The $100 gonna be on spot.
As a matter of fact, we got a complaint at the task force level that businesses were blackmailing people. That's why they said the complaint came that businesses are blackmailing people by giving them incentives, either by time or money, to take the vaccine. So you see the complexities that we are having.
We bring it to tourism then, Ministry of Tourism, because we got to get the drive. Dr. Laws, is it not possible to get the vaccine in a form of a tablet, since people fear the injection?
All right, thank you. Mr. Boone, and then we'll take no more questions. No more, because we really have to go. Yes, Mr. Boone?
Thank you. Sorry to be greedy. Just a couple of things. One is a repeat, and I apologize for that.
Wait, hold on. Mr. Boone, 1 second. I'm sorry. I can't hear Mr. Boone, so can we settle down so that we can get to this? We have a really hard stop for the team here, and we really, really have to wrap up and go. So, Mr. Boone?
I'll talk quick. Let's have one meeting at a time, though. So I just want to make a point that the passion and body language for the panel about how important this is really moving. I've had my first shot, so I'm there. I mean, well, halfway there. But you really need to put it out. In this room is an elite group of hospitality executives and senior people representing their different interests. The regular man on the street isn't catching any of what you're saying. No disrespect, Dr. Laws, but I know you said you put the message out and this and that, but you know, there wasn't any horsepower behind it. You've got to do the passion thing. I mean, I moved and I'm old, so it's not, you know, so please, you got to put the thing out. I mean, I'm total disciple of your message, obviously, but you've got to put some horsepower behind the message and use the airwaves, for sure. Secondly, the actual experience of going to the clinic and having the process, is anyone on the panel familiar with that? Yes. Okay, fine. Okay, time up. The reason I asked the question is that the experience I had and all the people that were with me was a real case of mumble, fumble, and stumble. And that it just doesn't make it an appetizing experience. I think the hours of service, starting at like 1 o'clock or whatever, is not helpful. I think it needs to be an all-day process, and it needs to be better organized. And maybe some of the other clinics are good. I went to where did I go? Yeah, Newtown. And that was not a good experience for sure. So And the third thing is, I think people were talking about incentives. I think the whole issue of the 2-week mandatory quarantine for arriving guests, visitors, is what's holding up our businesses to a greater or lesser extent, directly or circuitously. And that should be the reward, I believe. It's why am I going through all of this? Well, you know, if we get the 70% thing going on, then we lift up the quarantine, and you, as the mechanic that does rental cars, you see how you're in the tourism business or automatically? The mechanic that does the rental cars suddenly gets employed because now there's some rental cars that need servicing. If it's put that way, I think you might get a little bit more, you know, a better response. What is the reward? Well, not dying is a pretty good reward, for sure. But there needs to be another reward, and that is an economic one, not a bribe. I'm talking about how the gates can be lifted and the customers can come in and spend their money, and all is lovely. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Boone. So, Mr. Samuel, you can continue to wrap up, panelists. I'm going to be very, very stringent, and so you each have 5 minutes left. 1 minute? Okay, Ms. Brown says 1 minute. I was being nice. But there was a question that also just while you're answering, Mr. Samuel. Is there the possibility of reducing the quarantine from 14 days to 7 days for persons who are fully vaccinated? So I don't know.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa, but I guess it's a repetitious question because as CMO just rightfully said, until we reach herd immunity, then we cannot see the reduction or the reduction in the protocols. The reality is, Mr. Boone, is the same message and to everyone we have been saying. If we reach the threshold of herd immunity, then we are going to be easing the restrictions, the travel restrictions, all the restrictions, the COVID-19 protocols in general. That's where we want to reach. That's where we want to go. I wish it could have been next week so the headaches could stop. Yeah? Once we reach the threshold, and that has been communicated over and over and over and over again. Okay, so if it's not being communicated, then why do we have this urge and this passion to reach herd immunity if we are not going to ease up the protocols? Why are we then pursuing herd immunity? Let's be realistic. Right. Correct. They've been encouraging their staff to do so, but the staff are ordinary people. They don't see it because we have it really good. We don't have COVID, we have great stimulus packages, we have everything. But so how does it affect me? How does the ordinary person get affected? They don't have to deal with all these things. So that's why they're not seeing it. We can say, oh yeah, we are not getting any passengers and quarantine and all this story. But the country is not seeing that because they are not facing these issues. The staff, they are not facing it. Even though they have no job, they're still finding a way to do business. If you see during this time, so many people have home businesses now. And they're surviving off of that. And the things that they're thriving, they're good. Because they don't have the overheads and expenses that normal businesses have because they're doing it from home. So they're not feeling that pressure or that urgency that we have. So all these people, everybody in here has gotten vaccinated, or most of them. But the ordinary people haven't because they're not affected. They have it too good. When something is too good, then you don't feel the need to get vaccinated. No point taken. Okay. All right. I'm so sorry. Jessica, I'm so sorry. We really, really, really have to go because we have an important meeting. So I don't know if another important meeting. I don't know if Minister has to say anything, but we really, really have to run. So
If not, I'm so sorry that I have to do this, but I want to thank everyone. If you have something that you want to stay back behind with the team and ask, then you can feel free to do so. But I want to thank everyone for coming out today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome.
The rebuilding of tourism starts with taking the vaccine.
I'm taking the vaccine for a healthy nation.
I for sure will be taking the vaccine.
I am taking the vaccine because it's the best way to get back into full swing. Stay safe.
I've taken the vaccine for my family, for my friends, for my community, and for me.
The rebuilding of tourism starts with taking the vaccine.
I'm taking the vaccine for a healthy nation.
I for sure will be taking the vaccine.
I am taking the vaccine because it's the best way to get back into full swing. Stay safe.
I've taken the vaccine for my family, for my friends, for my community, and for me.
But me don't think it's bad. Be St. Kitts strong and mask up.
I wear my mask to protect my beloved citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis. I invite you to do so too.
Show your love for St. Kitts Nevis and wear a mask.
Keep St. Kitts strong and mask up when you step out.
I wear a face mask for all the nurses, doctors, and other medical workers who are on the front line.
Do the right thing and wear a mask.
Show the world that we are St. Kitts strong and wear a mask.
I wear a mask so that St. Kitts Nevis remains a safe and healthy destination for me, for you, and our visitors alike.
Say St. Kitts sweet. Me no know about you, but me love St. Kitts bad.
Welcome back to St. Kitts. The health and safety of both our residents and our visitors remains our #1 priority. Please ensure that you put on your face. Stay in your lane. Practice social distancing. Sanitize. Wash or sanitize your hands every 30 minutes. And follow established health and safety protocols on all island tours. Report COVID-19 symptoms to any government official or your hotel manager. You can call the emergency health hotline at 311. We look forward to welcoming familiar faces and to introducing St. Kitts to those who may not have visited before.